Okay. Hi, I'm Steve Thompson, president of Emery Thompson Machine.
And I'm from the health department.
This is Jeff Markow from, what do you call it? Mystic Ice Cream in Fruit Loops, Florida. This is Sammy. I just wanted to let you see how Sammy's doing because a lot of you follow our 200 videos. She's will be a year and a half at the end of November. She's been through a lot of police training to learn etiquette, and this is what we got. She can sit and stay.
Can she sniff out the narcotics in the audience?
No, just the ice cream. So she's doing pretty good, and I just wanted everybody to be able to see who watches our videos how well she's doing. Okay, up. Go with Ken. Yeah, you don't know that one. Here you go. Bye-bye. No. No deviating. Come on. See you later. Thanks, Ken. So just a couple of startup ground rules. I woke up this morning, and when I saw Jeff, I told him, I said, I just have a feeling this is going to be the best class we've done all year. And I can tell. And he said, well, based on what his last 2 days of his class were like.
It's not going to go well at all.
No, that's not what he told me. He said that it was a very enthusiastic crowd, and so we're very happy you're all here. The thing that generates this class, besides us doing the dog and pony show, and we've already done the dog, we'll bring the pony in later, is questions. So as you have questions, please ask them. The funny thing that happens when we do this is we take a break for coffee, we take a break for lunch, and everybody rushes up and has a million questions. Well, the people who are watching the video want to hear the questions too, so please ask questions as we go along. We'll probably repeat your questions so that the camera, the video, the audio can hear it. But when we're talking about something, raise your hand and we'll get to you very quickly, because if you have a question about, well, did he use corn sugar or cane sugar, you know, if you wait until lunchtime to ask the question, we will have been moved on to about 10 different subjects. So please, as things come up, ask questions. Right over there, if you would unlock that door, please, behind you. I'm a past fireman, and so that's an exit, this is an exit, and that's an exit out of the building. If you want to get up and walk around, we won't be offended. Please, anytime, get up and move around. If you go outside the building to smoke, don't take Sammy with you. She's trying to quit. So we'll get started. I think I'll give you the agenda first. Jeff has already changed a little bit of what he's going to make, but we'll pass these around. And I'll show you what we plan to make today. And I'm going to start with an Italian ice. Italian ice has a lot of different names. In New York, we call it Italian ice. As you go down the Jersey Turnpike towards Philadelphia, the name changes to Italian water ice. And if you're up on Bay 8th Street in Brooklyn, it's called Granita or Granite. And they are all basically sugar, water, and flavor. A fine fancy restaurant calls it sorbet or sorbetto. People say, what's the difference between sorbet and Italian ice? Only the price. You can get much more for a sorbet because you're selling in a fancy environment as opposed to Italian ice that you're selling on Coney Island. So there is no difference, sugar, water, and flavor. Where the difference comes in is the sugar content. What they're selling down in Philadelphia, Italian water ice, is actually smoother than a New York ice. Now, based on the bigger machine, the 24 quart, because that's the way my brain thinks, the formula, my secret formula for lemon ice, which is the basis of all ices, is 7 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, and 2 quarts of fresh squeezed lemon juice. You can make it easier by using an extract or a base, but it depends on your market. If you're out in Omaha and they've never had Italian ice, you can get away with using a base or an extract.
They're not going to buy it there anyway.
No, because they don't know what it is. But if you're in New York, Miami, Chicago, you've got a fresh squeezed lemons. And you're not going to buy them 3 for $1 at the supermarket. You're going to buy cases of them through the wholesale distributor. And the price comes down very low. And so you'll find out it's not too expensive to buy fresh lemons. So in New York, my formula for the type and texture of Italian ice that we sell is 7 pounds of sugar. The water stays constant, 14 quarts of water. The lemon juice stays constant, 2 quarts of lemon juice. But the sugar can change. At 7 pounds, it's got a certain texture that I like. I go down to Philadelphia, they like it smoother. They use 8 pounds of sugar. That makes the lemon ice, or as they call water ice, it makes it smoother. So Rita's, who we put in business, has a smoother ice than what you would find out on Staten Island in New York. You go over to Brooklyn, to Bay 8th Street, where everybody's speaking Italian and only Italian, and they're selling the Bernita. That ice is very crunchy. I mean, you can really have a texture to it. And what does that is it's not 8 pounds of sugar like Philly. It's not 7 pounds like New York. It's 6 pounds of sugar. And that makes it very crunchy. Then you get up into Rhode Island, and what we call at the amusement parks, we're in Universal, SeaWorld, Disney, Six Flags, you name it, we're there. They're selling frozen lemonade, which is my Italian ice formula, but put into a 16-ounce cup and served soft instead of scooping it like ice cream. And that product, what in Rhode Island and Massachusetts is called slush, and it's not slush like a 7-Eleven. That product is only 5 pounds of sugar to the full batch. So it's way down there, but we're pulling it out of the machine faster than we would Italian ice. So we're going to make a New York Italian ice today. And the way, and when I make up a new formula, which this one is for me, when it comes out great, I'm the most surprised person in the room, because I do it mathematically. What I figure, people say, oh, I want to buy an Emery Thompson, and I'm going to experiment for 3 years making different flavors. Well, I should keep my mouth shut and say, great idea. Why don't you do that? Buy my CB100 and experiment for 3 years and then buy a bigger machine. But the fact is, in order to come up with a recipe, I only have to make 2 batches. My first batch is mathematical. I say I need this much sugar to water ratio in order to actually freeze in the machine. And then this is what I want the taste and texture to be. So I do it by mathematics, which will be this. And if it works, great. And then you turn it over to Jeff, and Jeff does it a different way. His idea is like the Texas restaurants, too much is never enough. So if 4.5 pounds of bananas tasted great, let's try 6. And his flavors are really intense. So I came to my formula by saying this is what I need in order for it to properly freeze in the machine. And then Jeff, or my second batch would be, now how do I improve on the taste? Well, if I want more texture, less texture, smoother product, more sugar. If I want the flavor to pop, because, Jeff looks at me sometimes and says, it's okay, but if you'd only put in more raspberries, you would have really had something. And so on the second recipe, you can take this, adjust it to your personal taste, and there you go. You don't have to do anything more. You've got your formula until someday you decide that you want to change it. So we'll try this. He's grinning.
Well, or you can learn how to do it the right way on the table, create your formula, and then know when you put it in the machine, you're spot on.
Well, that's good. We'll see what happens. So if it comes out great, I'll take all the credit, but I'll also be extremely surprised.
If it doesn't, I'll throw a big I told you so.
Exactly. So that works for me. All right, so we're going to take 32 ounces of frozen strawberries, 4.5 pounds of ripe bananas, a quart of water, a pound of sugar, and lemon juice.
Where's everything?
Where is everything? Well, here are the bananas. They've been sleeping for a few days now. And the more ripe the bananas you can get, the better. When bananas get to the point where they are so brown that they're mushy, that's the best time to use them because they have their highest sugar content. When you first buy them at the supermarket and there's a little bit of green at the top, they're not so good, at least not for making ices and ice cream.
You have more bananas?
Oh, this whole thing is 4.5 pounds. So we're good to go there. The strawberries, I have to measure. And the lemon, I have to zest.
Everything going right in the machine? Are these thawed out? Yeah.
Yes. Could you give me, though, 32 ounces of frozen strawberries?
Sure.
It's
Why
leaking
don't
a
we
little bit.
mix this in here right away so I can use that?
Great. Okay, so here's my water in the formula. Here's my sugar, plain old cane sugar. Doesn't have to be bar sugar or anything else like that. Let's see, something to stir with. That'll be down here. And sugar dissolves very easily in cold water. I don't have to stir it for hours trying to get every last granule. If I pour it into the machine and there's a little tiny river of sugar, don't worry about it. There was a whole pound in here. You know, a 32nd of an ounce isn't going to make any difference at all. So this dissolves very nicely. One question that always comes up, especially being down here in Florida, and again, I'm from the Bronx. What about the water? Do you have to purify the water? Because the water down here is terrible. The answer is yes and no. If I opened up here in Brooksville, Florida, north of Tampa, there's no tourists here. You're the only tourist this town has seen since the last class we did. And so I'm selling to the locals. They grew up on the water. They don't know the water's bad because it's all they've ever tasted. It's not bad to them. So I'm just using plain old tap water. Now, if I'm down in Miami, everybody in Miami is from New York and on vacation. I need to filter the water, maybe use a Culligan water softener to clean up the water, take some of the minerals out. Again, in New York, we consider it the best. I got to drop those by hand into the machine. Or you're going to puree
Well, I
it?
thought the strawberries should be pureed.
Okay.
They're too big.
Then we'll puree everything.
That's what I thought.
Sorry. Great.
It's Italian ice, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine.
So you may or may not have to do the water. If you're out in Oswego, Illinois, and you're the first person with Italian ices, don't bother purifying the water because it's just fine. Everybody's used to it, and there's no Disney or SeaWorld out there to bring in people from faraway places. I'm going to zest a lemon, and I'll tell you why. This product, I'm going to change that formula. I got mixed up with one of my other forms. I'm going to use the juice, 1 ounce of juice of a lemon. If I was making a lemon ice, which will come out, this is going to come out red. If I was doing just a lemon ice, it's going to be pure white when it's finished. And so I want the lemon just zested so that I can put the little specks into the machine. I have this, it does nothing for the flavor. If anybody tells you, oh, it's the oils, that's bull. It's only one lemon. But I'm going to have little tiny specks of yellow in...
Did you say bull? That's bull?
Oh, I didn't say the second part. Little specks of lemon in this field of white. It's going to look really great. So that's why I would use a cheese grater. But for this, I'm just going to cut it open, rinse it off, cut it open, and use an ounce of juice. The lemon just helps to bring out other flavors. It's like when we make ice cream, we often use vanilla in other flavors because it really enhances it. And if I get a seed or two in there, it's no big deal, but I don't see any. So I'll take care of that. While Jeff's doing that, this is what's inside the machine. My grandfather started with one of these. That was a rock salt and ice machine, and he put salt in there and rock salt and turned the crank for 40 minutes to get a quart of ice cream. He then went back to his home in New Rochelle, New York. Remember Rob and Laura Petrie? They were from New York, the Dick Van Dyke Show. And he invented the world's first batch freezer. You can look at it later. It's up on the wall back there, and the patent is at the website. And his was a vertical machine, and it spun around like this, scraping the ices off the walls. Well, over the years, we turned it horizontally to get better blending front to back. And instead of wood paddles, it's Delrin and stainless steel. So this is in here, and it's going to be spinning around, scraping the ices off the walls. Very, very simple process. And we use, whether you buy my smallest machines or my biggest, they're all using the same concepts. This one is the same dasher in the 44 quart or 11-gallon machine. So you can see exact same design. So no matter what Emery Thompson you buy, it's still got the decades-long lifespan and our unique blade system. I'll have these over here for you to look at later. Any questions so far? Everybody's quiet so far. Okay. So you got some puree here. You have to watch me because sometimes I leave ingredients out. Oh, that looks good.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of good to see. All fresh flavor. Now, you can do it with an extract, which would be very simple. I take a gallon jug, add about 1 ounce of banana and 1 ounce of strawberry, and I've got the same product. That costs me, if it comes down to a squeeze cup, a 4-ounce cup. That's a squeeze cup. This is the way we eat it in Italian neighborhoods. You put the product in here. It's a 3.5-ounce cup, so in order to give someone 4 ounces, it's crowned over, and we eat it by squeezing it up like that. That's the name, squeeze cup. If you call your paper supplier and ask for squeeze cups, if he's not from Brooklyn, he's going to look at you like deer in the headlights. They never heard of a squeeze cup. That's known as a pleated water cup. So when you're in an office situation, we have one in the kitchen, you go over to the water jug and you pull down a pleated water cup and get yourself some water, squeeze it and throw it away. This, using an extract, 4 ounces, is going to cost about 3 cents to produce, and I'm going to sell this for $2. Incredible markups. If I'm going to use all this fresh fruit, that price for 4 ounces is going to jump to an outrageous 7 cents, maybe 8. So I'm making the world's best product and serving it to you for 8 cents, and I'm selling it for $2 or higher. I mean, you just can't beat the profit margins on that. So rather than make something that's great to sell at Yankee Stadium, I want something that they're going to be lined up around the block on my street wanting to buy. And the difference is using fresh frozen fruit. Now, you'll notice I use frozen fruit that I thawed because strawberries are only in season during strawberry season, whenever that is. So in the dead of winter, you can't get strawberries unless you bring them in from Argentina, and they taste like cardboard, and they're very expensive. So if you buy frozen strawberries in the bag, they were picked at the height of freshness. There's no artificial anything in there. It's just the strawberries. And so you're getting as good as if they were picked on the farm, but you have it available to you year-round.
Suggestion.
Yes, please.
How about if we throw a few of these whole in here so that you get a few pieces in there? You want to do that?
You can try.
It's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Or we'll feed them into the machine as we get it going.
Okay.
So let me pour these in. I'm going to pour the slurry in first because then I can use the sugar water to wash it down. And how many quarts do we have here? We have 3, 5. I have more than I want. I'm going to put a little less than that in. Okay. So make sure the gate's closed. The last product you made, you took the product out of the machine and you left the gate open, and then you went and you put it in the freezer. And so now I go pouring this in, it's going all over the floor, and you're cursing my name because the machine leaks, and it's because you left the gate open. You laughed. You're going to do it. And then you'll remember, oh, Steve told me to close the gate.
Is that your 350 machine?
This is the 350. This makes up to 6 quarts at a time. I don't hear anybody going glug, glug, glug.
Glug, 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 glug,
Thank
glug,
you.
glug, glug.
There we go. That's
Glug,
better.
glug, 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 glug.
Okay. Now, the sugar and water.
Glug, 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 glug.
All right, Jeff, we're going to have to carry you away. Ken, I bet I don't have a splash guard.
A what?
Could you get me a guard? So this may splash out. Because oh, forget it, Ken. I got it. Sorry. Okay, just put that on. Now, the infinite overrun is preset with different speeds for different products. Frozen custard is the heaviest weight ice cream you can make, so that's got a real low speed. Gelato is a little bit lighter, so it's a little higher speed. Then there's Haagen-Dazs, then there's super premium, and then there's homemade. Italian ices, sorbets, they have their own numbers. So I'm going to hit Italian ice and start. That's going to run it up to the speed I want. To tell you the truth, I have sorbet and Italian ice and frozen lemonade in here, and those three are running at the same speed. But people like to see that it says it. Turn on the refrigeration, and we're off to the races. So let me just start a timer. I tend to forget that I'm making a product and continue talking, which I'm very good at. And then all of a sudden I look and things are too quiet in the room and the machine is locked up because I let it freeze up. Your whole job while making ice cream or ices...
Focus.
Thank you. Good word, focus. Stick to what you're doing. So I get a little timer. I set it for 11 minutes. I think the batch is going to take about 13 or 14. And now I can go over here and I can start preparing my next batch. I don't get on the phone. I don't talk to Ken over there. I don't work with customers. I say, okay, for the next 3 hours, I'm making ices, ice cream, gelato. Your wonderful people go away. I'm going to concentrate on what I'm doing because this is my product. This is my inventory. I've got a little extra room in there, so I'll pour the rest of this in. This is an air-cooled machine, yeah. All the countertops are air-cooled, which makes them very mobile. Okay, the question is, there is a drawback to an air-cooled machine? Yes and no. On the smaller machines, this is a 2-horsepower compressor. That's a really big compressor for the size of the machine. This one's a 1 horse, and over there is a 0.6, a little above half. It's throwing out heat, but not so much that it's going to affect things. On these bigger machines, the floor models, they're double the size compressor. They're throwing out a lot of heat. So I've got the room set for 74 degrees. If this was air-cooled and I turn this on, in an hour, this room would be 78 degrees. You'd be uncomfortable. So I'd have to crank up the air conditioning. Well, water's expensive. Water's going through and then back out. Go ahead. Be my guest. This is cooling by air. This is cooling by, when I turn on this refrigeration switch, all of a sudden it's calling for water. When I turn this off, it doesn't use any water. It's cooling the engine. And that water is going through the machine and then out, and now, boom, it's stopped. It's not using any water. It's putting zero heat into the room. So I don't have to rely on expensive air conditioning to literally run the machine because it's not generating any heat. Water is expensive. Sewer is expensive. It's expensive all over the world. But it goes up, you look at your water bill, and it's up pennies a year over last year. But you still complain about it because why should you have to pay for water? But electricity goes up every time there's some type of political disturbance in the world. So you might be paying X amount of dollars for electricity today. 2 months later, it could be much higher. Electricity is air conditioning. Air conditioning is what's keeping you comfortable in here. So if I look at a 5, 10 plus plan for this business, my electric bills are going to be a lot more expensive than my water bill ever would be. So if you can use water cooled on the bigger machines, by all means, go for it. Why do we even build air cooled? Because you've got some locations, Los Angeles County, California, the island of Jamaica or Aruba or Saudi Arabia, where water is just not available. And so if you don't have it, you can't use it. So you go to air cooled. Yes, a question?
Yeah, I talked to
Yeah.
However, am I correct that if you have a water-cooled one, that it can be converted to air-cooled, but not vice versa?
Okay, the question is, once you buy a water-cooled machine, and this happened in Alexandria, Virginia, about 25 years ago, the people running Alexandria decided one day, well, we're going to protect the environment and we're going to ban water-cooled equipment, and we're going to make it retroactive on everybody who's out there. Well, the restaurants practically went out of business because everything was air-cooled. If you've got a water-cooled machine, and it's using water, like I said, and then you buy a second one and a third one, well, by the time you're running 3 batch freezers, you are running up a pretty good water bill. There is a solution. At that point, you can spend about $6,000 or $7,000, and you can get what looks like an air conditioning unit. Down here in Florida, we're all air conditioned. We have a little unit outside that cools the gas, that cools the air, and sends it back in here. Well, we can disconnect from the water supply, fill it with antifreeze, and then it comes out of the machine at 108 degrees. We can send it out to the air conditioning unit to chill it down to 40 and send it back in, what you call a closed loop system. So I can get off the water grid anytime I want. All it's going to take is some money. But if you're running 3 machines and these things last 45 years or longer, it's certainly going to pay to get off the grid. With an air-cooled machine, it's air-cooled. It's air-cooled forever, and it will always be, and there is nothing else you can do. So water-cooled gives you an option. Air-cooled, you will always be stuck with air-cooled. We sell air-cooled machines. Maybe 10% of the machines leaving here, of the big ones, are air-cooled, but that's about it. 90% are water-cooled. So to give you an answer and say one is better than the other, it really comes down to your personal location. Up in Massachusetts, this lady, my battery went dead. Anything that can happen will happen. So I'm going to have to watch this myself. Lady up in Massachusetts, everything was all set. We're going for a water-cooled machine. It's Massachusetts, plenty of water. The health department comes in and says, well, the way your plans show, you're going to take that hot water, instead of putting it down the drain and pay sewer, you're going to run it out to the cranberry bog out back. And that's going to kill the cranberry bog. So they just shut her down completely, said, we're not going to let you do this, before she even got out of the building plan stage. And so we sold her an air-cooled machine. But that's how rare it is. But we can pretty much tell by location. Also, if you're out in a rural location and you're on a septic system, anybody who has a septic tank knows that every couple of years you got to pump them out. You don't want it filling up with fresh water. So, because then you got to pay the sewer company to come with the big tank on the back and pump it out. So if you're on a septic tank as opposed to city sewer, we'd probably go air-cooled. So long answer to air versus water.
What was that question again?
Now I'm going to keep an eye on this.
Any other questions? Yes?
Okay, that's good.
That's the question? We're at 7 minutes? Come on, a little more creative.
That's not very much time. Ice cream takes, again, depending on the formula. Based on vanilla ice cream, which has no added sugar in it, about 8 minutes a batch. If I make strawberry ice cream, well, what does the strawberry taste like? It's sweet. So it's bringing extra sugar to the formula when I use strawberries. So strawberry ice cream is going to take longer than vanilla ice cream. Italian ice, there's no dairy, it's all sugar. So the freezing time is usually about 14 minutes or so. But it will vary depending on the product. Why don't I put a timer on the machine?
Why don't you put a timer on the machine?
Well, because anybody who's ever made ice cream will tell you after the first day, every product's different as far as freezing time. So if I've got a Cappuccini and it always shuts down at 9 minutes, I got great vanilla. But my strawberry is all soupy. I got to go back and turn it on. If I'm making mango sorbet with a machine with a timer, I have to go back and turn it back on. So we are putting some of the onus on you on purpose. The other thing is, the batteries just went dead in this. What if this was on the machine? This machine is the only one in the United States of batch freezers in the world that is National Sanitation Foundation and Underwriters Laboratories. To get those two stringent codes, this $6 Farberware timer would cost about $240. If it's an Italian machine or any other machine, it's going to shut off your compressor. So now, if this little guy goes bad, you're out of business until someone comes by, changes the $240 part, charges you $120 labor. Also, you can have a timer. And this is portable. I can carry it with me. I can go, I've got other timers. I can carry this with me and go into my office, except I'd be breaking my own rule. I'm here to make product, not to talk on the phone. So I'm going to just take a quick look at this. Now that's coming out very nicely. I can pull this product. You see that on the camera, Jack? I'm pulling this product at any temperature I want. There is no set temperature. It depends on what I'm going to do with it. If all of a sudden Jeff's in the front office and he says, Steve, we just ran out of that flavor, we got to have it, I'll pull it out of the machine a little stiffer. If I'm trying to make production, I know I want to get this made and get on to the next batch, so I'll probably pull it a little softer. When Jeff and I make ice cream, we both pull. Now, see how this cuts off like a knife went through it? That's ready. Turn off the refrigeration. We don't need any more cold. Grab a spatula and watch how fast this comes out. There's no restrictions to it coming out. So what it means to you is, besides getting the job done quicker, it means that the first part of my product is going to weigh the same as my last part. And that's important. I want consistency. Look at that product. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the color. That's
Take a picture.
That's all fresh strawberries and bananas. Yeah, well, they're hungry. Let me get the rest out. That one's for you. This one's for me.
They're clapping.
So come on up, and we'll give you a taste of this. And I think you'll like it. So it's a 6-quart finished product machine, but I actually made about 7 quarts on this batch. Ken, it looks good enough to eat.
Oh, stop. You always get the half of that, people.
Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you.
Hey.
Uh-oh. I know what Jeff's going to say.
Thank you. This is strawberry or?
What?
Sorbet and Italian ice are the same thing.
Oh, okay.
They're sugar, water, and flavor.
No cream.
This has no cream in it?
No cream.
No.
Really?
No. Technically, sorbet doesn't have cream.
Thank you.
What? Do I? Oh, fill that out. Oh, it's for both of
How
you?
are you this morning?
Good. You?
Fantastic.
Now, here's what's going to happen.
Sure.
If I ask you how the product is, you're going to say it's great, you love it. You're also getting it for free. If I had you test this for 5 or 6 batches, you'd say, you know what, Steve?
Chicago
I think that
night.
one's a little weak on the flavor. And when Jeff tries this, he's going to say, Steve, you should have added more strawberries. So I will take my recipe and just up it by about another 20% of strawberries to get even more flavor out of that. But it's a nice flavor. But that's why I say, and I shouldn't tell you this, you should be experimenting for 3 years and buying different size batch freezers from me. But the fact is, 2 batches and you've got your perfect recipe. And then you put it on and every time you're experimenting, don't do what I do. Put it on a 3x5 file card. Label this, batch 1. Label the card, batch 1. Because if you do go through 5 or 6 batches, all of a sudden you go, you know, I really like the 5th one. What was the recipe for that? And you've forgotten because you didn't write it down. You just changed it a little bit. So write down each recipe until you find the one that you like. Needs more strawberries.
More sugar.
More sugar. Okay. Be right with you. Sugar brings
to be
out the
sweeter,
flavor.
right?
When if you've got a flavor that's a little bit, I forgot that. When you've got a flavor that's a little on the bland side, it doesn't necessarily mean more strawberries, like I said. It can often be, try adding, I'd say, another ½ pound of sugar to this one, and it will make the flavor, it won't make it sweeter, but it'll make it pop. This is Italian ice with no dairy. The crystalline structure isn't going to change. I'm going to put it in a regular chest freezer. I don't have to take it down. The nice thing about Italian ice, sorbets, dairy-free, what you taste is what you get. So I should have had Jeff taste this before I ran it, and he would have said, needs more sugar. Because whatever you put in is what's going to come out. If I make vanilla ice cream for you right now, you're going to say, that's really good, but it needs a little more vanilla. Well, ice creams take overnight for the flavor to bloom. They go into a hardening freezer, and they take at least 8 hours for the flavor to be enhanced. But not so with Italian ice. What you put in is what you're going to get out. Go ahead. Yes.
No,
question.
zip it.
Well, I was just wondering, when you're trying different recipes, what's the smallest amount you can put in a 24 quart?
You can do a 10. You can do a 10-quart batch, so 5 quarts in.
The reason I was asking that is I was watching one of the videos, and you were talking about smaller amounts and so forth, and I thought, well, I know I've been using these at-home Cuisinart, and they're nothing like the regular batch freezer as far as when they turn out.
This is,
And so I thought, well, how do you test amounts when if you have to do huge amounts and you aren't sure of the recipe yet?
You can do half batches on all the floor models. On these, you have to do a full batch, and just know that you'll have a lot of happy friends. What's going to happen, just so you know, because you will get this, I mentioned that you just had free ice cream. When you give your friends free ice cream, it's, Steve, I love you. Steve, it's great. And you gave them vanilla ice cream. The second time that you give it to them, a few weeks later, wow, Steve, that was really great with vanilla, but you might consider adding a little more vanilla to it. The third time is when you get the real truth. It's, for gosh sake, Steve, can't you make anything other than vanilla? Because now the free is off the bloom, and you're getting some honest answers from people. So don't test a flavor by what you think the public likes. Taste it, make it by what you like, and then when you put it out in the cabinet, they'll tell you pretty soon whether or not they like it or not. Jeff he'll tell you he's had some great flavors. Absolutely fantastic. Wrong name. The name didn't sell. And then he changes the name, and everybody goes, oh, look, it's a new flavor. It was a Speckaloos that happened to.
Right.
Why don't you tell them about that, and then you take over.
It's not very interesting.
Then you take over.
Okay.
I'll just work cleaning this.
I have to disagree.
On what?
I can make a smaller batch in my 24, smaller than half.
Okay, but they run you're an experienced ice cream maker. They run the risk of freezing up.
Well, you have to be right on top of it.
Yeah.
But yesterday...
We're talking 30 seconds.
Well, what did we make yesterday? 2 quarts? Right? We made a 2-quart in there, in the 24, ready in 4 or 5 minutes, and it was good, very good. So if you're careful and focused, you can do it.
In the old days, if you froze up the machine,
Yes.
You ran the risk of doing
Breaking
some
a
serious
drive
damage,
shaft.
breaking a drive shaft, breaking a coupling. Nowadays, with the infinite overrun control, if you freeze up, it's smarter than you. It's saying, this is getting ridiculous, it's too cold in here, we're going to just shut you down. And it isn't going to let you start up again until you open the door and take the dasher out and clean it out. So now what you have with my newer machines, instead of a damaged machine that's going to cost you a few bucks to fix, you have a pain in the neck. You have to open the door and clean it out and say, don't ever walk away from the machine again. It's really that simple. And it's just like an oven. When I watch Paula make a birthday cake, and she makes the cake, she prepares it, she throws it in the oven, sets it for 24 minutes. At 24 minutes, she does not pull that cake out and say, hey, it's done. No, she takes a fork and she sticks a fork in it to check it to see if it's done. So it's no more difficult than that here. Instead of automating the process and getting mediocre ice cream, we're leaving the making of the ice cream to you so that your creativity can come into it.
Done?
Take it away.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. So it's the holiday season, Halloween, pumpkins, Thanksgiving. So how about if we make Pumpkin maple walnut. You better say yes, this is what I got. How about if we make pumpkin maple walnut? My kind of crowd. So pumpkin maple walnut. You can write the recipe down as we go along, but it's really not that important. Mix. We have mix here?
Yes, sir.
The mix comes in bladders, as you know, 2.5 gallons per bladder, 10 quarts. And in a 24-quart machine, all of my recipes are geared towards one bag of mix, 10 quarts, 2.5 gallons. And I put 10 quarts in, 2.5 gallons in, and I get 6 or 7 gallons out on a batch. So the ingredients for today will be the mix. Actually, I'll tell you what, why don't you start smart and just put down on the left-hand side M dash, under that P dash, under that MS dash, under that WAL dash, and under that BS dash, and under that, don't worry about under that. So what's the first one? M, right? What is that? Mix, of course, which is a terrible name, as we always agree to. What am I using? 5 quarts, half batch? Yeah. So because this is a 12 quart, not a 24, so we'll use a half batch. So my card says 10, but we're going to use 5. Okay? Right. That's what we used yesterday, 24, this is 12. So we'll use 5 quarts. And that's pretty good. So that's the mix. Pumpkin. Now, I tried pumpkin pie filling, but I didn't like it. It wasn't good. So I buy pure pumpkin, 100% pure pumpkin. This is what they call a number 10 can, which is a big can. This is what I use in a full recipe, so today we'll use half. Now let's see, how am I going to do this? Let's get another container. So we want half of this. In case you're weight conscious, this is 6 pounds, 10 ounces. So we'll use about half of that. Can we use too much? No. Now, maple syrup. Luckily, I have in my classes, somebody took a class whose family owns the largest tree farm in Vermont. And then a couple of months ago, I get a delivery at the store, and it's a 5-gallon drum of pure Vermont maple syrup. That's some money there. In the store, a pint is about $11. So he sent me this great thing, so I figured out, let's use it. This is pure maple syrup, 1 quart, about a quart. So we'll use that too. This is fun. It's like playing house. Walnuts. I use these walnuts in maple flavored sauce. I don't like that maple flavored sauce, so I usually drain it. But the walnuts are good. My mic working? We'll use those. We'll use half of that. Now, today when I got here, I realized I forgot one of the ingredients. I forgot brown sugar. I need a half a pound of brown sugar. So what can we do?
Regular sugar?
Well, sugar? Ah, who said it? Yeah. So I took a half a pound of regular sugar and I mixed it with some molasses. And that'll give us brown sugar. Genius. So we'll add that in. And that should be pretty close to brown sugar, right? You know less than I do. It's brown, right. It's brown. And that's half the battle. We got the color right. Okay, brown sugar. So what do we have in here? We have pumpkin, maple syrup, and brown sugar, right? How much brown sugar? Half a pound. No problem, Tina. Now what? Now mix it up. As we discussed in class, it's like making soup. If you have 5 ingredients to make soup with, and one of them is no good, you cheap out on one of them, soup's going to suffer. So when you're making your stuff, ooh, look how good that looks. That looks pretty good. You getting that, Jack?
Yes, sir.
All right. Feel like
Put
Oz.
whole walnuts in there, the halves or pieces?
They look like whole walnuts. Doesn't say. Premium walnuts, so we're okay. What else? Oh, and then I discovered in making this that I need, Steve's right, I like to pump it up a little bit. What does Emerald say? Kick it up a notch? Right, I like to kick it up a notch. So I discovered that a little, you know, Tyranny, we have a coffee bar in my cappuccinos. All done? Okay. So I felt that it needed a little, you know, pumpkin isn't really strong. So I tried to think of something that complemented pumpkin, and I found caramel that we put in our coffees at the store. So I add a little caramel to it, just a little. And now we have something. So we'll throw this in the machine as soon as we get something to catch it when it. These are finger tight. And we'll put this in. Aha. Good thing I put that there, huh? And this and the walnuts, right? Can we put too many walnuts in? Yeah. No, you can't put too many walnuts in. It calls for half of this, and I don't have a strainer to get the juice out, so we'll have to do that by hand once it's rolling. Okay? These machines are, I don't sell for him, but you can throw anything in here. They're really bulletproof. Okay, we have everything. We have the mix. We have the pumpkin, the maple syrup, the walnuts, the brown sugar, and the caramel. We're good to go, right?
I have a question. I've noticed making pumpkin pies from scratch, that you use a lot of like nutmeg. A lot of the recipes I've seen online have cinnamon added. Have you tried it with those, or just with what you have here?
Pretty good. Come home with me. We'll experiment. I don't know. I'm not a baker, so perhaps those would help. Glad you brought it up, my deficiencies. I'm glad you pointed it out to everybody. Okay, so we haven't put the refrigeration on. All we're doing is adding our ingredients, minus nutmeg and all that stuff. I think the problem with what was the other one? Nutmeg and what? Cinnamon. I think the problem is when you're baking a pie, you're using like a half a teaspoon and that amount in your ice cream, you would adjust it, of course, but you're still not going to use a lot of it.
Well, the reason I asked was
That's enough. What?
the pumpkin itself
Right.
doesn't have a huge amount of
No,
flavor.
no.
So when you have the cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice, it gives you that extra really bite.
Okay, remember the flavor here is pumpkin maple walnut. When I make pumpkin pie ice cream, of course I add nutmeg and cinnamon. What kind of guy you think I am? Walnuts. What? Define pulverized. Well, it will chop some of them and you'll get pieces. Let's take this. Suppose you put a one whole Oreo cookie in the machine. So it won't be nothing. It'll be very small pieces of Oreo. Nuts a little harder than Oreos, so you'll see when it comes out. Oh, you'll see when it comes out. Just relax. You'll see when it comes out. And that's it. What else do we have to do? Thanks. Timer? Okay. Where's this timer? No. Where's your timer?
Batteries are dead.
Batteries are dead. Where's your batteries? You have another timer that's not so masculine?
You don't need some stinking timer.
We don't need no stinking timer.
That'll be an approximation within 10 minutes.
See, this counts down. I count up on mine because I know that this is not reliable. So, not that the timer's not reliable, but the time is not reliable. So, even though this counts down, I don't know how to use it.
I set it for 8 minutes. When the timer goes off, I go back and check the product.
Well, I just watch it.
Okay, that
So,
works.
you conveniently left the room while I was creating this.
Yes, I do.
Is it that you don't care?
No, I don't have to suffer the slings and arrows if I'm not here.
Ah, okay. You let me do that.
Yes. Any questions? Jeff, the setting he's running on is homemade, which
234.
is maximum speed. Yeah, the
Full
numbers
speed ahead.
don't mean anything because you can take another machine, and if you could, which you can't, turn it to 234, it won't correlate. It's not a number that goes any further than what's used on an Emery Thompson machine. So what counts, though, is the product that you're making. This is an invention of mine 13 years ago. And what's unique about it is, people would say, well, gee, big deal. You slow down the machine, or let me put it another way. If I put heavy cream in here and stir it with a whisk, it's going to remain heavy cream because I can't stir fast enough. If I take an electric mixer and put it in here, it'll turn into whipped cream. So homemade ice cream, by terminology, is 1 gallon in, 2 gallons out. That's the maximum amount of air. So I run at full speed, and the Emery Thompsons are the only ones that make homemade. Everybody else is making gelato. They can't make homemade. So I took it a step further and said, well, besides my homemade, I want to able to make lower, more dense products. So how do you do it? You slow down the machine. If I turn it like this instead of like this, I'll put less air into it. But here's where the trick comes in, why it's an invention instead of just an add-on. You're in your dining room, you've got the lights, 100-watt light bulbs, and you dim them down to a romantic 25 watts for dinner. You're literally stealing the power from the light bulb. It's no longer a 100-watt light bulb, it's a 25-watt light bulb. If you take a motor in a machine and dim it down with a rheostat, it's no longer a 6 horsepower motor, it's a 1 horsepower motor. And so it doesn't have the strength to pull through a product that needs a 6 horsepower motor. With my invention, the Infinite Overrun, which again is 13 years old now, no matter what speed I run at, I am getting the full power out of the motor, what they call torque. When you step on the gas and go screaming down the street, that's torque. If you just go piddling down the street, that's called a Yugo. And we're building the machines that can do high torque. Does that make sense?
There was the old days, like say 50 years ago when they were making gelato when they didn't have the
50 years ago, we weren't making gelato. Emery Thompson wasn't doing it. There wasn't any market for it in the United States. The Italian machines, which are based on our patents as far as design, freezing cylinder, chamber, how you cool it, all batch freezers are based on my grandfather's patents. But what they did is they originally started at 1 speed and 1 dasher design that will only do a 50% air content at best. It won't do higher. They'll try to sell you a second dasher for $4,000. Switch out 1 dasher and put in another. So now the machine is, instead of being $32,000, now it's $37,000 for what we sell at a fraction of that. We're not changing dashers, we're changing the actual configuration of how the machine runs. And 13 years, it's the largest selling brand in the world. It certainly works. And it gives you so much versatility. We've even stopped making the 1-speed machines on these bigger models. We don't even offer it anymore because they just weren't selling. Everybody wanted the Infinite Overrun control. So it's pretty great. Yes?
Is the refrigeration temperature constant on the machine?
The refrigeration temperature, it's kind of a odd question because no, it's not like putting an ice cube tray, and by the way, the millennials don't know what an ice cube tray is. You're putting an ice cube tray into your freezer. Freezer's set at 0. It's eventually going to freeze the ice cubes. What's happening here is we are getting colder and colder and colder and colder into where if you left it alone, it would just shut down because it's just so cold in there. So no, the cold temperature is dropping. It used to be Taylor that wouldn't tell you what size compressor they had. They're out of business. They're the world's largest manufacturer of soft ice cream machines. We drove them out of the batch freezer business 3 years ago. There's a 3 horsepower motor in there. You can relate to. It's a 3 horse as opposed to a quarter of a horse, half a horse. It tells you something. What everybody else was doing is dishonest. They say they rate it by BTUs, British thermal units. We all know that a 6,000 BTU is a good size room air conditioner for your master bedroom. You know, it's just in our minds. 6,000 is great. 12,000 is outrageous. We can put that in the living room. So they rated their compressors and their machines by BTUs. Well, this thing is about, I don't know, 18,000 BTU when you first start it. But as the product gets colder, your BTU level drops because the product's getting colder. There's less British thermal units to take out of the product. So rating a machine by BTU is a dishonest rating. The dasher is scraping the product off. In fact, no, all the time until it stops because you ignored it, until the product's ready. But we used to have blades for, oh gosh, 110 years. The blades looked like this. They were metal and they were thrown against the walls by, that's heavy, thrown against the walls by centrifugal force. So you couldn't do low-speed products because there wouldn't be enough centrifugal force to throw it against the walls as it goes around. We redesigned it with spring-loaded blades so that no matter what speed, I could run it at 1 RPM and it's going to scrape just like it would at 234 because of the springs. These have a life to them, and as they age, your freezing time gets longer and you have to get them resharpened. These whether this blade is 1 day old or 5.5 years old, because of the springs, it's still scraping at the same efficiency. So you've got something, like a lithium battery. They work absolutely great and then they stop. Well, these don't stop, but they work 100% all the time. And they cost less than these. So it's really been a dramatic change. You're not ready?
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Okay. These also make great barbells. You can be lifting them like
I
this.
see you strapped that one after I broke my toe.
Hit him with his toe. Yes.
What was the question?
No, the question is the colder you get, the faster you can make product. No, there's a law of diminishing returns. I mean, I could blast it with, I could add nitrogen into the product and it would be frozen in a couple of minutes, but it wouldn't be the product you want. It would be very grainy and awful. Liquid nitrogen's a bad way to make ice cream. Quite simply because Americans, it's not the reason that you would think. Americans don't like to wait. And if you watch any of the videos on liquid nitrogen or the new old-fashioned pan, the Thai pan where they put it on, they're always working around, it takes about 7 minutes to make a batch, to make a serving. All right, so we got 10 people in line. 10 people, 7 minutes. That's 70 minutes. I'm not waiting an hour and 10 minutes for you to serve me. I've gone down the street to somewhere else. Americans will not wait. It's a novelty. Maybe I'll do it once, but these people running in businesses like that, they're not in business 2 years later. They're for sale because it's not, people want it now. I mean, imagine going to McDonald's and they say, okay, your hamburger will be ready in 70 minutes. Are you going to wait? No. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Oh, lots. Okay, here.
What do you said you, on your machine, you're for full bag, and you're adding all this other active material. When do you get worried that you're going to overflow? Is there a point where you think this is too much to put in? The
question is, can you put too much into the cylinder? Actually, these cylinders are much larger capacity than what we tell you.
Right. I have a 24-quart machine, which is how many gallons? 6 gallons. So some of my recipes, I get 7 gallons out of a 6-gallon machine. How does that work? How does that work, Steve?
It works because there's more room in there. However, when you're doing that, you're increasing the freezing time.
Correct.
Is there? I need a bucket.
You're not concerned about putting too much.
No, not with
if you put too much in, it won't fit.
Yeah, but not with the motors we use and the compressors. You can't hurt them.
No.
We also rate our machines differently than anybody else. We rate it by an honest answer. This makes 12 quarts. The next one makes 24 quarts. This one makes 6 quarts. This makes 3 quarts. That makes 1.5 quarts. These are all finished capacity. Everybody else's machine, when you read that, say, Capajani has a 21-quart machine, here's what they do. They take the cylinder that's in there and they turn it on end, so it's up like that. They take out the dasher, so it's an empty cylinder, and then they fill it with water. And they say, hey, guess what? That holds 21 quarts. It's a 21-quart machine, and they're trying to compare that to my 24-quart machine, which if I did their trick, this would be about 34 quarts. But that's not honest. It's never going to get 34 quarts out of it. It's rated, I want stuff in under 10 minutes, 8 minutes. So it's rated by how much can I get out. So that's a 24-quart machine, but if I did it by everybody else's method, it'd be about 34, 35 quarts. It's dishonest because you can't compare apples to apples.
I just found that a 10-quart bag works perfectly in my machine. So I know when I'm here, it's a 5-quart. And then my ingredients.
Also, all your recipes that you're ever going to see are based on our machines because we've been here 112 years. You're going to find that the bags of mix used to come in 10-gallon pails, and you'd ladle out, what you needed. Well, now it comes in 2.5-gallon bags, not liters, but bags, because Emery Thompson is based on 2.5, 5, and 10. So they followed us. You don't want to be putting in one bag and then putting in a quart of another bag, because now you don't remember, did I take a quart out of that bag? It gets too confusing. It's simpler just to run a full bag and know how much ingredients will go in every time.
Right. Makes all your recipes simple.
Yeah. You're done?
Almost ready.
I'll get out of the way.
It's not going to splatter out. Pumpkin, maple, walnut. Minus the nutmeg and cinnamon, of course. Ah,
He'll do another one. I think.
okay, we can try some.
I haven't figured out how to do it.
Uh-huh.
Very smooth.
Just have a little.
Throw the old plate away
Yes, sir.
and zip it.
Thank you. Hey, Jeff, how come your machine doesn't have the infinite over?
I needed a machine real quick.
And you didn't want it.
And I didn't want it, okay.
He didn't need it. He didn't need it.
You know, it's like a car. You know, you can get the automatic transmission, or you can really figure out how to drive a car and get a manual.
Yeah, and then no one nowadays can steal it, because only you and I know how to drive a stick.
Correct. Dennis? Good, how are you?
Hey, you better pay that extra $40 to get it brought to the house. That's right. Thank you, sir.
You're
the
welcome.
greatest. It looks delicious.
I thought I was the greatest.
Second, I just met you today, so I
Mike, you're really busting them, aren't you? Chicago Mike's ice cream. Try it, Steve.
Oh, well.
Vicky. Mike, you're really working it, aren't you?
Oh, that's good.
Chicago Mike.
Oh, man, that's good. Boy, the maple flavor in there. Oh, delicious.
Yeah, I haven't tasted it yet. None for you? Oh, okay.
Now, would you only make this for Halloween, or you would make this year round?
Only Halloween and Thanksgiving, that's all.
So after that, it's done.
Yeah. Actually, after it's, I made, what, 7 gallons or something, 10 gallons? After that, we'll switch to regular maple walnut without the pumpkin, and that'll go through the winter.
How many of your flavors do you rotate on your menu?
Julie had a great question. How many flavors do we rotate? The problem with owning an ice cream store is you want to always do new flavors because it's fun. We talked about the 3 reasons we go into this business. Number 1 is profit, number 2 is art, and number 3 is fun. And the making ice cream is the art of our business. So I have 40 at one time. I always have about 40. But in my recipe file, I've got 150. And I rotate them. And that's not even what I'd like to do. I'd like to have 200 flavors, but it's not feasible. Sometimes when Steve makes something, I say, ooh, that'll translate to a good ice cream. And I go back and I make it. You get ideas from everything. I just came back from Maine, where there's a store that, a really very popular store, and they use Emery Thompson machinery there, so I had a great conversation with them. But you look up on their board, and there are about 150 flavors. And I spoke to the girl who makes it, and she's just like me. She said, I love making flavors. It's great. So we always have 40, and we rotate infinity. You know, whatever we think of is what we make. Bonnie?
Yes. Do you have very many flavors that you make where you have to actually cook something first? For example, I made a basil ice cream that turned out good, but I had to heat up the cream first to get the basil flavor into the basic mix.
Question is, do we ever have to cook things prior to making the ice cream? I only did it once. Years ago, you couldn't buy what you can buy now, and I was making custard. And to make custard, you have to heat the eggs, the beaten eggs in the mix, simmer it for a long time, till it dissolves in there and becomes not cottage cheese. And that's what I did. Now, of course, you can buy pasteurized egg yolks in a carton, like a milk carton. And you can make custard just using that. Custard is a unique product. It's way above ice cream, in my opinion. To me, it's the Rolls-Royce of ice cream. Wouldn't you say, Steve?
It's got its place in business.
He doesn't agree. Custard is, if you're ever up in the Atlantic City, New York area, Coors, K-O-H-R-S, Coors custard, phenomenal. It's different from everything else.
The only problem with it is it's great for vanilla and chocolate, but when you start getting into other flavors, it can be really heavy and sort of like lead. It's great
Now,
for vanilla.
hold on. I have another part of your question. When I started investigating how to make candy bar ice creams, I took Milky Ways and I cut them up and I put them on the stove and I melted Milky Ways in large quantities because I didn't understand how else to do it to infuse my cream with that Milky Way flavor. So I would heat up those big pots, I still have them, with Milky Ways and make them all swirly and nice and soupy. And then slowly I would pour it into my mix, stirring all the while. Then I would put it in the machine. It worked, but now like that I can do it without heating it up. How do I do it?
Freeze it.
Cut the Milky Ways in little pieces, put them in the freezer, throw them in that machine over there, and you get Milky Way powder, or you get Kit Kat powder, or M&M powder, or Snickers powder, or Payday powder, or Butterfinger powder, and then you make your ice cream.
So, with flavors like basil and mint, both of which I made and it turned out great, but I had to cook them first. How do you extract the flavor without using artificial flavors?
I don't use artificial flavors. Basil and mint. I just don't use them. I'm not a very, I know, but you have to understand something. When you make ice cream at home for your neighbors and friends, yes, bacon, lilac, cashmere ice cream will fly. But when you have a store and you get 200 to 300 people a day, and you've got 40 flavors up there, you put basil, cashmere, Napoleon ice cream up there, nobody's going to buy it. You'll sell one. So trendy is trendy, but sales are sales. And you always have to be cognizant of what you're selling, what you're putting out there. A friend of mine makes bacon lilac ice cream. Sounds great. Bacon lilac, oh man, who's going to buy it? You know, you'll get one person today saying, this is the greatest ice cream in the world, and you've got 7 gallons sitting there. So,
Well, maybe not basil, but mint with chocolate chips is good. The fresh mint tastes a lot different than the artificial flavor.
I don't believe so.
No, and in fact,
No.
there's a
All right, all right.
There is
hey, jump in there, baby.
There's a company, and I've got a sheet for you about a few suppliers and stuff to tell you about that. There's a company called Green Mountain Flavors, and they're not in Vermont. They're in Oswego, Illinois. And Green Mountain Flavors, Stan Sitton is the president, and he is specialized in making all natural extracts.
Right here.
Right here. This is the peppermint extract for peppermint patty later on. And this stuff is fantastic. And certain flavors, if you're an executive chef, melons drive you nuts. Cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon. If you take any of those melons and squeeze them, you have no flavor. You just have water. They're not strong enough. So if you can take a honeydew extract and add it to your melon flavor, it's going to be great. Otherwise, chefs, there was no way they could make a good honeydew ice cream. You couldn't do it.
When you think about it, what you're doing when you simmer on the stove mint leaves in a water or sugar syrup, what you're extracting from the mint leaves is what's done there.
Yeah.
So maybe you just take a little bit of it and kind of put it in there at the last, just so it looks like the real stuff is there.
I don't care what it looks like. I care what it tastes like.
For 100 years, nobody ever heard of anything infused. I mean, this is a new fake trend that has come along, like liquor infused. You know what we call liquor infused? We take the stuff and we pour it in the machine. You know, we don't infuse it into anything because it's all going to blend in the machine. That's where any of these is when it's in its strongest flavor. Throwing it on the stove is not going to help it. And all you're doing is, if you're putting it in with the dairy and cooking it, all you're doing is cooking the dairy. If you want a little proof of that, take some tap water and boil it. And then let it cool back down, even put it in the refrigerator, get it nice and cold, and then try drinking it. I learned this down in the Caribbean when I was 13. There is nothing more awful on earth than water that has had all the oxygen boiled out of it. It's just not drinkable. And you're doing the same thing with dairy products and other flavors when you put them on the stove. This infusion stuff is made up. You talk to any chef who's got a few years on him, and he says, "We don't do that. We just put it into the blend, and we get the flavor."
You were in the Caribbean at 13 years old?
Yeah.
Are you a rich kid?
Yeah, I was. In fact, I even had a motorbike, and my mother got really upset about it because I'm 13 years old, and I've gone off to Christiansted on this motorbike, and she calls the cops. She's from New York. She calls the cops. And he looks at her and says, "Lady, don't worry about it. It's an island. You can't go anywhere." I came home.
13 in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm a bit confused. So this is,
Why aren't you eating it?
I'm not sure.
Well, you got to eat more.
Is this ice cream or gelato or
Ice cream.
ice cream? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
pretty
it's
good,
not
huh?
Italian ice.
No. Italian ice has no dairy. Sherbet has a little dairy. Ice cream has a lot of dairy.
Is that what the cream is? The,
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
How much is the practical and sometimes you guys pay?
What?
10%?
This is 10%. We're using a 10% mix. I did an experiment last week. I got a 16% mix, and I made vanilla ice cream. And we tasted it, right? We tasted French vanilla ice cream and my 16% vanilla ice cream. And I'll tell you what the difference is. There's a lot of misconceptions. What I found the difference between 10% and 16% is after eating the 16%, because now think about it, there's a lot of butter fat in there. After eating it, it tastes delicious, but all of them taste good. And you swallow it, and then because of the high butterfat content, it coats your senses in there, and you sort of want more. That's how I felt. You know, after you swallow it, the taste, because it's coating your mouth with the high butterfat, after you swallow, you want more. And that's what I found. You want more, which is not a bad thing, but that's what I found. Tom.
Jumping back to the Italian ice. That Italian ice you made there, normal circumstances, you would put it in the freezer until tomorrow, right? Like if you were selling
Yes,
it.
yes.
Now, on the paper here, it says, if you were gonna use it for more than say you're gonna use it next weekend, it says use stabilizer. What is stabilizer? Is that like just a squirt or something extra?
Guar gum and,
See, here's the thing, you have to, what I wrote there needs a little explanation.
Ah.
If I'm in the Italian ice business and I'm selling ices, I'm looking at the weather. It is the most weather-dependent business on earth. Today's Wednesday, and the weekend's going to be beautiful and sunny. I know I'm going to go through 5 tubs of lemon, 3 of cherry, some mango, some cream ice flavors. So I'm going to make a lot of product today and tomorrow. And I'm going to put it in a 0-degree freezer and just let it sit there. That's my inventory. It could sit there for 2 months, and it will not deteriorate at 0 degrees. Ice cream will fall apart, but
It won't deteriorate because you put stabilizer?
no, I'm getting there.
Okay.
All I did was sugar, water, and flavor, and I put it to 0. You couldn't scoop it with a hammer and chisel. It's so rock hard. It's not going to fall apart as long as I leave it in there. Friday night, I reaffirmed that the weather's going to be fantastic, and so I take a couple of tubs of lemon ice out and I put them into my serving freezer, and they're going to warm up to 16, and I'm going to scoop from there. In the scooping cabinet, it will keep for 3 days beautifully. It still doesn't fall apart. If you go into an old-fashioned pastry shop, in Astoria, New York, over by LaGuardia Airport, you're going to see, and you come in, you order a lemon ice, you're going to see the server flip back the lid, and the server's reaching in and going like this, and you see their arm moving a couple of times, and then they pull out the scoop, and they put the lemon ice in, crowning it over, and they hand it to you. What the server is really doing is, since the product's been there for a couple of days as they sell it, it's formed a little puddle of lemon juice and sugar and water in the center of the tub. The server is just remixing it before they hand it to you. It hasn't gone bad, it hasn't deteriorated. Now, if you want to go into the wholesale Italian ice business, or you're selling to Louis Pizza and Chef Antoine's pastry shop, and you're putting it into the supermarkets, and you can't control the weather, and you can't control how fast they sell it, then you use a product that will bind it together and hold it.
What is that product? Is it like you add a squirt to that, or you just?
It's not a squirt. It's in the old days it was a chemical base. It was a couple of chemicals put together that would bind it together. Today there's a very good stabilizer I use that's made from guar gum and carrageenan. Guar is a gum from a plant in Brazil. Carrageenan is seaweed. It couldn't be any more natural. I can throw the kitchen sink into ice cream as far as chemical. I can throw the kitchen sink into ice cream, and you'll never notice it. Ice cream can take on chemicals. I don't do it. But Italian ice, you put a chemical into sugar water, and it makes it sticky and gummy, and just awful tasting. So I either don't use stabilizers, or I use an all-natural stabilizer. You can't say that. You can't say better not to use it. It depends on how you're selling it.
Once you say you had the whole case full, now you said it's going to rain now. You changed it's going to rain now. Can you add it to it after it's made, or no?
No, and shame on you, because you didn't watch the weather report and see that there's a hurricane coming on Sunday. You should have cut back. Ice cream, you don't do that. You can make ice cream and you can hold it for weeks, months on end. It's all based on cold. Italian ice, it's a weather-dependent business. If it's not sunny, the people aren't coming out.
That tub of Italian ice, the 6-gallon, 6 quart. What's the cost? What would it cost me if I made that?
A 3-gallon tub, like Jeff has over there, a normal-sized tub, maybe $6, $7. So
$2 a gallon, roughly?
at the most. That's using fresh frozen fruit. So it's incredibly inexpensive. It's a seasonal product, though. Down here in Florida, I can sell Italian ice year-round. Up in New York, it is May 1st to Columbus Day. After Columbus Day, close up shop, you can't sell Italian ice. Because people, actually, the day after Labor Day, it's the funniest thing. I used to go on vacation the day after Labor Day because I dealt with so many amusement parks. And they said the day after Labor Day, people have this psyche from the north, of which I am, that, oh, It's Labor Day. I got to go up into the attic and get the sweaters out. And I better check on the coats. You know, winter's coming. Well, the beach is still 85 degrees. The amusement rides are still there. But all the kids have gone back to school. It's the best time on earth to go on vacation. The only time that's equal to it is 1 week after New Year's, where everybody's back to work too. But Italian ice, the concept is, oh, it's a summertime product. I can't possibly eat it in October, unless you're in Florida. And then we have all the tourists coming down. It's 50 degrees out. I've got 2 sweaters on because you turn into a total wimp after you've been down here for a year. And you would never go in the water. They're all going in the water. They're drinking margaritas. Who drinks margaritas in the winter? A tourist does. And they eat Italian ice in the winter. So it depends on location and very much so the weather. It's a weather-dependent aspect of the business. I was going to give you all a bathroom break. Does anybody want to take a bathroom break, or shall I continue going? You need coffee. Well, why don't you take a break, and I'll talk slow to the rest of them, so you won't miss anything. There's no coffee. Okay, I'll get Crystal to make some, or I'll ask Crystal to make some. What am I saying? I'm going to get, I'm in trouble. I'm going to keep going because we have a guest speaker today, and I want to get to that. I'm going to make cranberry chocolate chip dairy-free. I'll get this going, and then I'll talk more about it, because this is really exciting. Oh, see, she had a sex change and is now making the coffee. Thanks, Ken. Yes?
I know that using the freshest ingredients, the best ones, are really important. But because of the cost of some ingredients, have you ever figured out what the average is when you're doing, like if the walnuts and pecans are expensive, what the amount of it is that you should have on product?
What?
Okay,
Per serving or per gallon?
Oh, I'll answer that if you want. But you can go ahead if you want.
Let me do my way, and then you would do your
Okay,
ways. Because
okay.
mine's based on math, and yours
Mine
is
is on
based
the
on
street.
reality, on the
Right.
street. Basically, the question is, what about the cost of different ingredients? Vanilla is one thing. Maple walnut's a whole lot more expensive. My pat answer for that, without going into great depth, would be I'd say about $17 for a 2.5 gallon tub. And the way I come to that is my vanilla cost about $14 a 2.5 gallon tub, and my maple walnut might be up around $20 a 2.5 gallon tub. But when you get down to the reality of running an ice cream parlor, you're going through 10, 20 times more vanilla in the average ice cream parlor. Not Jeff, but the average ice cream parlor is going through 20 times more vanilla, 20 tubs of vanilla for every tub of maple walnut. So you have to average that out and say, yeah, it costs more to make maple walnut, but I'm selling so much more of the lower price one.
And
Now,
I'll give
Jeff's answer is
I'll give
different.
you my answer. Class, it doesn't matter. Use the best ingredients you can 100% of the times. Because instead of making $50 on a gallon of ice cream profit, you'll make $45 on a gallon. And does that matter? No. Not when the taste of your ice cream is absolutely the best. So when it comes time to buying ingredients, don't even think about the price. Buy the best all the time, right? We did all the cost analysis this week, and it comes out to nothing. It's pennies. Pennies. Between the junk that you would buy at the bottom shelf of a supermarket, or Hershey's, or Nestle's, or Ghirardelli, or any of them. So just buy the best.
What's surprising to me is looking at every ice cream shop I pass, is how bad some of them look. Just horrible.
How so?
They've got ice crystals, when they start melting, which they seem to do fairly often, it looks like kind of foamy marshmallows. And it's because it's all artificial stuff.
Well, not necessarily. A lot of it has to do with how they present their product. The worst villain. What's the worst villain to ice cream?
Dipping cabinet.
Air. Air. Where do you find that air floating around? Do you find it in these with a cover on it in your freezer? No. You find it in 3-gallon tubs laid out 16 to a row with all the air going around it? Yeah.
See, I've told people I'm not going to have it displayed so they can see Well, you have to do that, and I don't,
Do we have to do that?
No.
No. A dipping cabinet is a display of flavors. It's a visual display of flavors. You can't smell it, you can't feel it, you can't taste it. So what's an alternative to a visual display of flavors? A beautiful board with colors, different typefaces, descriptions, photographs. You ever go into a Chinese takeout restaurant? There's a menu there with 2,000 things on it. And sometimes you don't know, but if you look up, there's a board with 8 or 10 popular dishes displayed beautifully. They know.
I have got photographs of all that, different, a lot of different ice creams. But everybody keeps saying, well, you've got to let him taste. And I said, why, you know? I mean, I hear, now, don't laugh when I ask you this. No, but if you're not going to display it and have them closed, and I'm using a model that's from Vienna. It's something that's a company that's been around since 1926. So it's pretty different from here. But they don't display anything. And their policy is basically, if you don't like something, guess what? I'll just give you another one.
I didn't plant her here, by the way. Go ahead.
Nobody can invent that.
So I'm not going to display them. And then when it came to the tasting, one of my friends said, you know what, why don't you just put up a little sign right where they ordered that says, the reason we don't give samples is for the integrity of the ice cream. Something like that.
How about for the line?
Well, that too. But I mean, I don't want to, yeah, because if they try it and don't like it, I'll just give them something else. But the thing is, isn't it best to put something up there that says, we don't give samples and this is why?
No. Just tell your girls to say no.
Can I trouble you for some strawberries?
Can I taste that? No.
Yeah,
How about that
as
one?
long as you can.
No.
I have seen places that I belong to different blogs who rue the day that they ever gave out free samples.
Correct.
Because it ties up the line. And again, Americans won't wait for anything. So if you're there trying different samples and I just want to get my vanilla cone and get out, I'm probably not coming back. So while you think you're catering to one person, you don't know how many 5, 10, 15 people you're pissing off. Because they're having to wait so long while this person decides. There's been a lot of cases documented in these different blogs where...
Fist fights, riots.
That too. But people will come in and they'll try about 10 or 15 different things and then they're full and they go home. You know, the best thing to do is we make ice cream and you'll like that flavor, but if not, next time you come in, pick another flavor. You know,
Remember,
you have to put...
Remember, your ice cream, every one of you, after you learn from a competent source, are going to make the best ice
you're outta
cream
here.
in the world. It's not Breyers from the supermarket. It's not Publix ice cream. This is homemade ice cream. You're proud of it. So you know that of your 40 flavors, 30 flavors, 15, they're great. Every one of them is great. Otherwise, you wouldn't sell it. You created it, you made it, you have it, and it's great. So the word no is very important. When they come up to the girls at my store, can we have a sample? They don't even, no. Well, okay, I'll have this size with 2 flavors. No mixing flavors. What happens when you mix flavors? You get that third flavor that's not something you created. If you put pumpkin maple walnut next to mint chocolate chip, because they want to have both flavors, they're going to have both flavors on it. They're going to create a new flavor that's not something you created. That may necessarily not go together. So the answer is no.
Every location's different, but as a general rule, I prefer the cabinets that you can't see into. I want to have some real nice signs that tell everybody what I have.
Whoa!
You cannot tell that my M&M ice cream is really spectacular because instead of doing it like Steve Thompson used to, of just throwing the M&Ms in the machine, I grind them in the blender. So for every piece of dairy, there's a piece of M&M next to it. You can't tell that by looking at it. You have to buy it and try it, or you go on the recommendation of other people. But the main thing, the most important thing, which Jeff isn't touching on, is you got to move that line because I'm not going to wait. I hardly go to Starbucks anymore because I want a black coffee. I just want black coffee and get me out. I got a plane to catch.
That's true.
And here's the mocha latte, and I've been waiting 6 months for the pumpkin. I don't care. You know, why do I have to stand in line for that? Just have a line over here that says
Right.
coffee.
Right.
You know, and let me
I
go.
agree.
Same thing when you're doing pint sales, which I am really big on. Have a cabinet that says pints, and have a separate cash register over here. Here's your main line over here. Empty cash register, pint sales. I come in, Paula says, pick up a couple of pints on the way home from work. I grab a couple of pints, I go over to the pint sale line, and the person over there says, oh, excuse me for a minute, I'll be right back. The person runs over here, takes my credit card, you know, put it in the slot. You want a receipt? No, I want to get out of here. Do you want a bag? No, I want to get out of here. And I grab my pints and I go. That's how to sell a lot of pints. If I have to stand online here and wait for you to decide which flavor you're going to have, I'm never coming back here to order pints again because I want to get home. I'm tired. It's the end of the day. Speed is important. Yes.
Just one additional question. Mainly for you.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Because the model that I'm using, there's no toppings. There's no extra.
I have no toppings.
Okay, that's what I know.
We have no cones, no toppings, no sundaes, no bowls, no credit cards,
wrong, that one.
no splitting flavors, no samples.
How small is your smallest?
$6, 12 ounces. 12 to the cup is 12. We give you 16.
I need strawberries.
Yeah, what do you need?
I need 18 ounces of strawberries.
Pureed.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
So you don't have splits or anything like that?
No.
Now,
Where do you live?
I'll counterdict
How long you staying?
Jeff. Hello. I'll counterdict Jeff on the credit cards. Jeff's business is extremely unique. He's got a certain crowd, a certain age group, and they're also coming in there for camaraderie. I'm very big on credit cards. We didn't used to be able to take credit cards in an ice cream parlor because it cost too much. It was 5 or 6%. It was some outrageous amount, and you had to wait for your money. There were just a million reasons not to take credit cards. Then they come along with this little chip that goes into your iPhone, or now you can get a base station, and millennials and below are not carrying cash. So they come in, and remember, those of you who went to college, and the guys especially wanted to play big man on campus. Hey, I'm buying everybody in the car a beer, or I'm buying, the fries are on me, and you'd pull out the cash and pay for it. Well, the same thing happens now in ice cream parlors. The guy walks in, he's got a couple of friends. Hey, the ice cream's on me, and he pulls out his credit card, swipes it through, and now that bill goes straight to mom and dad. And mom and dad look at it and say, Jeff's ice cream parlor. Well, that's better than Jeff's bar and grill. So they think that's pretty good. But the teenagers all have credit cards now, and they don't have cash. So the way you get this in a normal business, not Jeff's, but in a normal, down-to-earth business, in a normal business, you need credit cards. And you just need the little machine, and you just zip right through, and it's great. Same thing with the pints, because again, the thing that drives me nuts about Starbucks at Tampa International, they raised the price from $1.99 for a small cup to $2.12. Great, I've got my coffee. I'm also now going through security with 80 whatever cents in change that I've got to pull out and pull in the basket, and half of it goes on the floor, and I'm picking it up. And guys don't like change. Round your prices up. Don't give us change. But that all goes away with a credit card. You just zip it and you're done. Money will disappear. I don't like the idea, but money's going to disappear.
It's not quite zip it and you're done. So we don't take credit cards because it slows the line. We have a line, and we don't give samples, and it slows the line.
Where's my guest speaker today? Who's the guest? Okay. Do you take credit cards?
Absolutely.
And what do you think of them?
Amazing. It's less hassle for me to count out the change of the night. We also take Apple Pay as
You
well.
have to go to the bank.
Can someone translate for them? I'm kidding you.
No, you're not.
You got an ATM machine in your store?
No.
No?
Oh, hell no. That's making money for someone else.
Well,
That's
I just know one ice cream store that I was telling them about earlier, they don't take cards either. But they got an ATM machine over there. If you got a debit card, you go get some.
if you've got an ATM machine. I used to walk into stores when I was young and even more brash, and they'd have pinball machines. I'd say, how much you want for your machine since you're going out of business? And they'd get really pissed off. They said, what do you mean I'm going out of business? I said, you got pinball machines in here. You'll be out of business in a year. And sure enough, they were, because they're noisy and they attract kids. And the moms with the little babies who have the money stopped going to the store. Why would you sell anything for anyone else? Coke wants to give me a free box? No, thanks. Only my name in the store. Nothing else. Anyway, let me make a product so that we can...
Now, I do have I did modernize to some extent with this. Only because my books are for sale here. You never did that.
Excuse me.
So now we take some.
All right, these are... Jeff, by the way, has produced...
My books are for sale, and I now can take credit card for the books.
Oh, see? Oh, see? He's got the little thing. You phony baloney.
I am a phony baloney.
All right, and with the sale of each one of these, you also get a free ice cream. So, oh, you get that anyway.
Where'd that come from?
Not at your store, here.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
that's right.
okay. 54 ounces. Ken, how am I going to measure 54 ounces?
Of what?
Dairy mix.
What do you mean, how? How many gallons, 54 ounces?
I don't know.
32 is a quart.
Okay. 64.
So it's a quart and 3/4.
All right. See, that's why we have you around.
So pour a quart and 3/4.
I'm making a dairy-free, which I'll explain after we get it running. Well, that's what I'm going to explain after we
Yes.
get going.
Let me explain.
You have to wait.
Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Yes. Pumpkin pie spice. Here it is.
You ever taste this, by the way, with a spoon?
Yeah.
And?
It's better when it's frozen. It's coconut.
That's a back door, isn't it?
Well, it's not dairy. It's different.
It's solid. Look. What about that stuff?
Oh, it needs to be mixed up.
Yeah, you can't use it like that.
Let me get my blender.
Yeah, because right now all you're getting is that.
Okay. Now, I saw that blender this morning.
It's down here, the immersion.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. We'll have to bring it over here to plug in because I made it a couple
No, I
of
think
days
we're
ago.
okay.
Okay.
You in?
I got it set for a
Okay.
slow speed, so it should be good.
That's all we need.
Great.
Break up the coconut meat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just put the top in the sink, I'll get it.
Got it.
I was glad to see you didn't buy one of those outboard motors.
Yeah. 4 tablespoons. Ken, could I trouble you for a tablespoon? Thanks.
What do you need?
A tablespoon.
I'll get it.
Well, he's already gone.
Huh?
He's already gone to get it unless you have one.
Oh, you can measure a tablespoon. That's a teaspoon.
Okay. Well, I wanted 4 tablespoons.
4 tablespoons?
That seems like a lot.
Yes, it does.
Let's do 4 teaspoons. It's probably my math. my
Okay, in the
writing.
mix, right?
Okay, so we've got the frozen strawberries, whole cranberries. Could not find whole cranberries anywhere. So I bought Ocean Spray cranberry whole berry sauce. So we're going to get a little extra sugar out of it, which is going to give more flavor, but it's got the berries in there too.
My kind of guy.
Let's put this in too, and then we'll hit
How
it
many?
with... I'll put 3 cans in,
Okay.
and then we'll hit it with the immersion
Okay.
blender.
Okay. Love that sound.
I have a 4th can if you think I'll need more.
You know me.
Well, maybe we'll taste it first.
Okay.
I'll let you decide. Yeah, I do know you. You love flavor.
All By the way, you want to see a great invention?
What's that?
An apron.
Why would I need an apron? This is a KitchenAid immersion blender, and it comes with a lot of different accessories. It's just great stuff.
Wrap it up and get that good stuff out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Connie. Now, I know what I didn't buy.
What?
Oh, we got something there.
What do you need? Honey.
Honey, 3/4 of a cup of honey, and 3 ounces of vanilla. Let me get another cup here.
You don't need a cup.
Well, it's 3.5 ounce cup, so
3 ounces of vanilla?
yeah. Yeah, well, that's my vanilla. That's the $500 a gallon, and you're
Yeah.
going to pour in 5 ounces?
No, I'm going to put in 3.5 ounces.
All right.
And how much honey? How much, darling?
3/4 of a cup, sweetie.
3/4 of a cup.
Yes. Okay, now, again, make sure the gate's closed, because the last thing I did was take the water out from rinsing it.
What do you want to do now?
Just,
Want to give it another shot?
all right.
Is that everything? Except the chips?
That's everything except the chips.
Get a spoon, we'll try it. Down below. On the left.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good. Huh?
It's not bad. You want to go any more on the cranberry?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Tastes good.
Good. Now, how much is in here total? 3 quarts. Perfect. All right, so we've got all the ingredients. I'll get this freezing and I'll explain to you what we have here. Okay. Now I'm going to run this at super premium to lessen the air content. So I go to the infinite overrun control, look for super premium, touch that, touch start. That's running, turn on the refrigeration.
Only food on earth that doesn't spoil. Honey.
Wow. I didn't
The
know
only
that.
food on earth that doesn't spoil.
Now, let me tell you about dairy-free. It's a fascinating subject, and let me start by saying that when you go to emerythompson.com,
Oh, strawberries.
that would be nice.
Why don't you put something here?
I don't spill.
Now we might need a little more honey. Make up the sweetness, you know? So we're adding strawberries?
Let's take a chance.
Okay.
Okay. Dairy-free ice cream is a made-up term. I told you that Italian ice is sugar, water, and flavor. Sorbet is sugar, water, and flavor. Gelato is dairy product with sugar, and ice cream is dairy product with sugar. Making a broad generalization, let me make a couple of broad generalizations. Until now, the largest buying group ever to come along were the baby boomers. I am happily at the bottom of the baby boomers. My sisters are up at the older end of the baby boomers, so I'm finally at the younger end of something. But I'm a baby boomer, and I have had, not insurance salesmen, but stockbrokers track what we've been doing since I was 18 years old. At 18, baby boomers were buying used cars. The market, you couldn't find a used car anywhere. In the 20s, they were renting apartments. In the late 20s, they were getting married, so you had wedding arrangers and plans like that going on. Then they bought their first house, and that market went up. Then they bought Dodge Caravans. The Dodge Caravan didn't exist until the baby boomers got to a certain age, and Lee Iacocca invented the Dodge Caravan, #1 selling vehicle in the world at the time. And now they're buying second homes. They're looking at Jimmy Buffett retirement communities, and so on. You can track by age this group. Yeah, thank you. You can track the baby. We're putting in the Ghirardelli chocolate chips. You can track the baby boomers and we're such a huge buying group that we've impacted the whole world. Well, that was then. Now the millennials are the largest buying group ever to come along. The millennial age group, and it's hard to determine what the exact age is. I would say somewhere between 22 and 39, but it could go wider if you want. But they are the largest group of people ever to come on the planet Earth. And so from a business standpoint, we can track the millennials also. And that's not a bad thing. It's an extremely good thing. We can track what they're going to buy. So we know that the housing market's going to go up. We know that family cars are going to go up. These things are going to happen, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Warren Buffett kind of touched on it years ago. They said, well, Mr. Buffett, how did you become a billionaire or multi-billionaire? What stocks do you buy? And he made one simple generalization. He said, I buy what I use. So he buys NetJets. He buys Colgate Palmolive toothpaste. He buys Dial soap. He doesn't just buy a bar of soap. He buys the company. But he buys what he uses, and he says, my age group, the baby boomers, are buying all this now. So the same thing with the millennials. There's a couple interesting things about the millennial age group. #1, making generalizations again, where everybody on Earth, every single person on Earth loves ice cream or would like to have ice cream. The millennials, generalizing, don't like dairy product. They're not a fan of dairy. They don't put milk in their coffee. They don't have a glass of milk. They are not buying Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry or Breyers or Bluebell. They're just not doing it. So here I am, and I started heavy research on this back in January, and I'm pretty much the lone voice talking about this. And I started back in January with it. So you've got an age group that doesn't like something. So I started making dairy-free, or I started making coconut-based products. And to me, it was Italian ice. Instead of tap water, it was coconut water. I used normal flavors like strawberry. I use cream of coconut. You go buy a bar drink, a fancy bar drink. It's got cream of coconut in it. Coco Lopez, but Coco Lopez is expensive. You can find different ways, and it was good when you tasted it. People came to these seminars. They tasted it, and I was calling it coconut Italian ice. It didn't have a name yet, and it was good, but it wasn't great. And I'm the first to admit it wasn't great. It turned rock hard. It became hard to scoop. You couldn't put in a dipping cabinet with ice cream. It had a lot of problems with it. This one lady came along in the United States, and she didn't have a name for it either. She called it vegan coconut gelato mix. There's a whole spread of, I don't know what to call it. Vegan? Do I call it vegan? Do I call it coconut product, or do I call it gelato mix? It's not a gelato. So a few millennials down in Los Angeles, customers of mine, and I can't pinpoint who, but I can pinpoint that it started in Los Angeles, said, let's call it, instead of vegan. Vegan to me, as a baby boomer, sounds like a 90-year-old man who weighs 90 pounds, and you look at him and say, boy, I wish I could buy you a decent dinner. They just look like they're starving to death. Again, sorry, a generalization. But the word vegan does not sell. It absolutely does not sell to anyone. I got to check this. So the millennials came up with a term which is absolutely perfect. They called it, it doesn't have any dairy in it. And it's not an Italian ice, really. So they called it dairy-free ice cream. Now, my customers up in, my customers who have been in business 40 years, they're all, tearing their hair out going, oh, you can't call it ice cream because the Food and Drug Administration says that in order to be called ice cream, it has to have at least 10% milk fat, butter fat, in the ice cream. In fact, when I was growing up, we had a product you'll never hear about called ice milk. Ice milk was anything below 10%. Ice milk sounds cheap. Gelato and frozen yogurt. There are no federal standards for gelato or frozen yogurt. So they can call, that's how they got around the law. They came up with a different name. This group, the millennials, are calling it dairy-free ice cream, an illegal term. They're not going to send out 2 Chevy Suburbans and haul you off to a black site in Yemen for calling it dairy-free ice cream. But it's a beautiful name. It rolls off the tongue. It tells you what it is. It's not gelato. It's not vegan. It's not, I'm missing dairy product. It's dairy-free ice cream. Breyers is doing this. Haagen-Dazs is doing it. Ben & Jerry are doing it. And they can't call it dairy-free ice cream. You look at a container of Breyers if you can find it because it's too new. Beautiful picture of mint chip ice cream. A big mint chip dish on the package. And it says dairy-free. And that's where it ends. They can't say the words ice cream. Your brain is doing it for them. It sees the ice cream. It sees its mint color. It sees chips in it. You see dairy-free, and then the brain says ice cream. But it's an illegal term, so they can't do it. But you can. And so, again, back to my customers up in, I'll get to you in a bit, back to my customers up in, have had business 30, 40 years. The first response I get really surprised me that they could be so closed-minded. They say, well, I ain't selling anything that doesn't have a cow head on it. And I go, oh, yeah, how's that 8-track player working in your car right now? Times change. And I said, I'm not asking you to switch over to a completely dairy-free business. That's not going to happen. Well, it will happen. It'll be someone in San Francisco, and it'll be mediocre. But you've got to have real dairy ice cream. But what's the problem if you've got 16 flavors of ice cream of having 2 or 4 flavors of dairy-free? It's a market that you don't know that you have. Right now, if you are all my age, I've got you sold on Jeff's ice cream. That's what you came in to buy. But what you don't have in Jeff's ice cream parlor, and I'm sorry to use you as an example, an ice cream parlor, is you don't have the millennial age group walking through the door. So you've got this great business, you've been in business for 40 years, you're making a real nice income, but you're missing out on an entire segment of the market because you don't have dairy-free. The millennials are so different from Jeff and me. Jeff and I go to a cocktail party, and I say, hey, Jeff, look, I just got this the new iPhone X, cost me $1,000. He'd look at me and say, you're a fool. But for the purpose of the story, he'd say, oh, that's nice, maybe I'll get one. End of conversation. Go to 2 millennials go to a cocktail party, and one millennial says to the other, hey, I just found out that Mystic Ice has dairy-free ice cream. Really? Cool. Text it over to me. I text it over to her, and that person then texts it to 10 of their friends, who text it to another 20 of their friends. By the time that cocktail party's over, there's 1,000 people in Fruit Loops, Florida, that know that Jeff has dairy-free ice cream. And this is what we're going to talk about next. We have an expert on this. The marketing potential that happens today is just incredible. This has a coconut. It's a coconut based. It has a coconut hint to it. I can do strong flavors with it. I do coffee all the time. I love it. It's technically a high-fat product, but it's good fat. Doctors will tell you, hey, eat all the coconut you can get. It's the best stuff on earth. If you've got an elderly parent, give it to them. It might ward off Alzheimer's. It does so much good for you. I think it's lousy for vanilla because the vanilla is battling the coconut flavor for world dominance, and neither one is winning. But if I do strawberry, if I do Heath candy bar, if I do Oreo cookie, fantastic. Any flavor I can do in ice cream, I can do here. I have found that, like ice cream, yeah, we'll get it out. This flavor will bloom by this time tomorrow. So it's good now. It'll be even greater tomorrow. And now you are catering to a segment that you never had. And it's going to be, in the words of Donald Trump, it's going to be huge. And you're going to love it. I mean, you're going to have so much business that you didn't even know you didn't have. So come on up and try and see if I'm right. How'd it come out?
I'm not a fan.
Okay, but what about the honey?
It could have used more since we had more strawberry, but it's you know, it is what it is.
Okay.
You try it.
Yeah, we are. Thank you very much. How about you?
No, we're just starting from Germany. I'm serving based in Germany, so in British Isles.
Oh, okay.
You take that.
It was
one.
good.
Okay.
I wish I had better chips.
Better chips.
Well, flakes.
Oh,
I was going to call you up and ask you if you had any flakes.
I don't have any flakes.
Okay. So this is what you use?
Chips.
These little...
Yeah, but I'm
Deli?
now starting to put chunks in the Ninja. You know, the Dove Bar little chunks into the mounded ones?
Yeah.
I'm trying to throw those in the Ninja
Yeah.
and get many different sizes.
Okay, cool.
The question I was going to ask is, do you think that most of the recipes are interchangeable between dairy-free
Probably the one.
and dairy-based milk?
Probably not,
Absolutely.
but he wants to
So you
try
don't have to
There.
make any, you haven't found a
Thank you,
consistent
love.
need for adjustment like on
Only on vanilla. Only on vanilla.
So vanilla.
Yeah, because
You're on my
vanilla is a
list.
standalone flavor.
You better
It's
be
vanilla.
careful.
There's nothing else like it on earth.
So any of them that I made, I just made
everything you do.
lemon ice cream, and it turned out great, and I thought, well, if I don't think so, I wonder what it would taste like.
Mm-hmm.
So you could
Chicago
pretty
night.
much count on being able to interchange those.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. Now, if you're interested in this, you can write me. The company, they also have a identity crisis with their name. It's Italian for mother, and it's spelled M-A-M-I-S, which they say is mommy's. You look at the spelling of it, and you think
You have
it's
an
the lady's
agenda
name,
for today?
Mamie's, but it's pronounced mommy's. And Nate O'Donnell is the senior vice president there. And you can email me, and I'll send you Nate's information, and they can send you a sample bag when you get open and running. This is just, I'm just having a great time with this. I really like it. I make a great coffee ice cream with it. And it's going to be, it's a trend. It's not a fad. I've been through an awful lot of fads. And I am not the judge who says, this is a fad. My telephone is my judge of what's a fad. 3 years ago, every other phone call was, I want to buy a pasteurizer. I want to make my own mix. Well, people didn't realize a couple of things. One, they didn't know the difference between a Jersey, a Guernsey, a Holstein, and the different output of cream and the type of cream. They didn't know that cows vary between winter and summer as far as the level of cream. And they didn't know where they were going to get 100 gallons of cream, because cream is much more profitable for the dairy sold in half pints. So that was kind of doomed, but I believe you can, and we are in business to make money, aren't we? That's the purpose we're here. We're not here for world peace, though people are very happy when they eat ice cream. We were helping to sell pasteurizers because we were making the aging tank for it. But it ended up being a $15,000 item. You're in bed with the health department like you wouldn't believe. They now say, okay, you are now Breyers. You are a dairy, and you have to follow all the dairy rules and regulations. That was really onerous. I haven't seen a phone call for making my own mix in 2 years. A year and a half ago, it was popsicles. Everybody's going to do popsicles. I didn't have the heart to tell people, we were eating creamsicles, when we were 5 years old, and that was back before there was dirt.
In the Caribbean?
In the Caribbean, yes. Well, they came melted there. So popsicles were a big craze. And yes, you can come up to me and say, well, I know a popsicle place in Los Angeles that's making $1 million a year. There's always an exception to everything. But based on my phone calls, popsicles are dead. I actually got a phone call this January from a young man. He said, I have an invention that's going to take over the world. Unbelievable. Oh, okay, what is it? Well, can I swear to secrecy? Oh, sure. Steve Thompson doesn't talk to anybody. Don't ever trust me. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I bake a chocolate chip cookie. And then I take a big scoop of ice cream and I put it on the chocolate chip cookie. And then I put another cookie on top of it, smush it down a little bit and freeze it. I go, whoa, that's amazing. What do you call it? He said, I call it an ice cream sandwich. Uh-huh. Have you seen Eskimo pies in the supermarket? You know, they've been there for 100 years. So fads come and go. Gelato is a split diff on that one with me. It was a fad that everybody thought gelato was the best stuff on earth until they decided they were sick to death of tiramisu and wanted their cookies and cream or Moose Tracks ice cream. Yes?
That's dairy-free, is it sugar-free too?
No,
Okay, but,
it's not sugar-free.
okay, but now.
That's another line in the
That's-
store.
Yeah.
In Italian ices, the place by us has 4 flavors that are sugar-free, and they're real good. How do they do it?
Okay, that's a different subject, and let me just finish up on this one, and I'll tell you about it. So fads come and go. I believe you can make money on a fad. There's the latest thing. I think it's Pre-Gel, a company I don't use for powdered products, everything from Italy, is now selling a machine that's kind of like a waffle iron, but it's a little more doughy. And you put the ice, it's $550. You put the ice cream in the center, seal it around the edge, and then heat it up, and then you give it to someone. And it's like a donut with ice cream in it. And it's good. But you eat one, and that's it. Because it's just so filling, and you know it's like 1,000 calories. You're not going to eat it. It won't be here in a year, and it's already gone. You can make money on fads. Just know when to get out, and don't invest don't bank the ranch on a fad. So see if you can get in cheap. Make some popsicles for a while. Make some salted caramel for a while. But then know to get out of it. It won't be here in 5 years like ice cream will. I believe the dairy-free is going to be here forever because it's what a huge age group wants. And because they want it, they're going to stay with it. As far as sugar-free ice cream or sugar-free Italian ice, yeah, I can make sugar-free Italian ice, but there's one little problem with it. It has to be made. You can't use stevia. You can't use Splenda. You can't use what else do we have over here? You can't use these artificial or even the natural ones, Truvia. You can't use these in Italian ice because there's no there to quote the Clintons. There's nothing to freeze. It doesn't have what we call solids. Dairy has solids in it. Sugar has solids in it. Otherwise, if you put Truvia and water and flavor into a machine, you're freezing ice cubes. There's nothing to actually create ice crystals. So what do? You say, the guy's got it. He's using a modified food starch, chemically modified food starch called maltodextrin. And maltodextrin first showed up in like Stouffer's candies at CVS, a little bag of sugar-free candies. I'm a type 1 diabetic. That's my insulin pump. This keeps me alive. And so I shouldn't be eating any of this stuff, but I do. I cheat. You can make it with maltodextrin, but the problem with maltodextrin, when you put it into chocolate, it has a little notice at the bottom that says, eating more than 2 of these at any given time may cause stomach distress. I think we call that Montezuma's revenge. If you ask people who ate that sugar-free Italian ice and ask them, did you get diarrhea after you ate that about 12 hours later? Oh, yeah, but I also had a burrito and some fries and enchilada, and you find out the guy's just eating all sorts of junk. But it causes diarrhea. So it's really not good for promoting to your customers that, hi, have this product. It'll guarantee to give you diarrhea. And there is no way around that at this time. The other way of looking at it is, I'm in the frozen dessert business. I'm in the business of selling you a treat, a reward. My girlfriend broke up with me. My boss is a jerk. My car got a flat tire. We buy ice cream for a lot of different reasons, and most of them are to reward ourselves. There's no reward in eating something like Hallow Top or that is just loaded with chemicals and artificial everything. You ever taste that stuff? It is the #1 selling ice cream in the United States right now, Hallow Top, and it's all based on gluttony. It says on the package, go ahead, I dare you, eat the whole pint. You can eat the whole pint and it's only 250 calories. That's their marketing scheme. That's insane. It doesn't taste good, but I can eat the whole pint. It's like saying, gee, you can have this really lousy pizza and it's only 200 calories, but who wants to eat a really lousy pizza? I'd rather have a slice of great stuff. I'd rather have a great ice cream from Jeff's place than to eat something really lousy, but I can eat the whole pint. I guarantee you, and I would bet the ranch on this, give it a year, maybe a year and a half, Halo Top will be sold to some other company and it'll disappear. The people who invented it will make a lot of money. It won't be around because it's a lousy product. And you put Halo Top compared to Jeff's product, and 100% of the people will buy Jeff's because it tastes good. And, you know, just like someone might say, you know, if you drink whiskey, you might say, well, I only have, you know, a shot a week, but when I do, it's going to be the best damn stuff I can get. We reward ourselves in different ways. You know, I deserve this. And that's really a lot of the psyche of ice cream and other frozen desserts. It's a reward. The people who come to Jeff's place have had dinner at home, and they're sitting around saying, hey, let's go out to Jeff's place because we know we can get a really incredible ice cream. It's a treat. It's a surprise. You don't say to the grandchildren when they're coming to visit, hey, come on, let's go down to the supermarket and get some Halo Top. It's going to be really exciting. You say, no, I'm going to go take you to my ice cream parlor in town. It's a lot of fun. You're really going to enjoy it. And with that, we have, yes?
Just real quick, blast freezer, what do you do when you're done with it? In the blast freezer, does it go in regular freezer?
This product,
Yeah.
regular freezer.
Okay.
Doesn't have to go into a blast freezer because there's no dairy.
Okay.
In fact,
Blast.
I haven't kept it around long enough to find out, but it's basically an Italian ice. It doesn't have dairy in it. It's sugar, water, sugar, coconut, and flavor. So it should have the same characteristics as Italian ice. I mean, just spectacular. And I'm not saying switch over the whole business and put up a sign, hi, we're vegan friendly. Just, we have 4 flavors that we know a certain age group is going to like. And you know what? They're going to bring Grandpa with them. And he's having some digestive problems with the Haagen-Dazs. And he's going to taste it and say, wow, I never knew coconut was that good. And it's going to spread. It's going to spread like wildfire. It's a trend, not a fad. We have a guest speaker. Would you like to come up now? Or anybody got to take a break? Or Jack, we need to mic her up. This is Vicky. And I'm sorry, Vicky, your last name?
Jevons.
Jevanese.
Jevons.
I'll let you say it.
It doesn't matter.
We're going to get a mic on Vicky. And
How are you?
Vicky and her husband have a new ice cream parlor here in the area. And they've got a wonderful story, and so much has changed in advertising. I used to do 6, 7, 8 trade shows a year, and you stand there in a big convention center, and you hope someone comes by and talks to you, and that's how we sold. Now everything is social media, and some of my ice cream parlors are still running that 8-track player, you know, in their car. Haven't caught on to the power of social media. I mean, the marketing concept of it, that you could, you know, put out a message and it's going to go to thousands of people. Let me give you a quick example and then I'll turn it over to Vicky. See that picture over there of Samantha and the batch freezers? What happened is I was taking a picture of the batch freezers and Sammy came in and just sat down and posed. It's one of the best pictures I've ever taken. People say it's so good it looks photoshopped. It's not. It's real. So all of a sudden we get this notice from social media. I can't remember which one. It was probably Twitter. No, I don't know which one it was.
Facebook.
Thank you. Facebook. And they said, you know, for $60 we'll put that up as an ad. I said, okay, great. We'll put the name Emery Thompson up. Best built batch freezers in the USA for 112 years, and then list at the bottom the products that it makes. Dairy-free ice cream, number 1, because look at the media I'm going after. Old-fashioned hard ice cream, fresh fruit sorbets. And that's all it was. Now, I knew people were going to look at that picture because look at the pretty dog. And really not, you know, someone who's 22 years old is not really going to pay attention to the fact that there's a bunch of machines behind them, unless they're thinking of going into the ice cream business. Or unless they know someone who's thinking of going into the ice cream business. We put the ad up, and the first week we got 7,000 hits. Amazing. I couldn't get that with any magazine ad if I tried. The second week, 44,000 hits. Now, just do the math. Out of 44,000 people, there's got to be one or two who are thinking of going into the ice cream business. I mean, I was blown away. One simple picture. Now we're on Pinterest, and we load it up with pictures of, you know, what goes on in here. We put Sammy up there, all sorts of stuff, and the reach that we get. It isn't just, you know, Tampa, Florida. It's not just the South. It's everywhere in the world, in all different languages. People are looking at the same picture going, oh, look at a pretty dog in Hindi or in, you know, any number of languages. And I mean, I've never seen selling like it in my life. It just blows me away. It's just so easy. Turn it over to Vicky.
Hi everyone. Where should I start? Probably
Tell us about
Yeah,
your business and how you got here.
well, how we got to Florida is a whole different story, but basically Rob and I started a company called The Funky Fairy in the UK probably about 9-10 years ago. It started just with myself, and then as the business grew, and a bit like Jeff's story, as we grew, we ended up with 2 retail shops, 12 members of staff, and it was crazy. But one of the things that throughout that particular journey that sustained us was the massive amount of social media that we dedicated time to. I had many a moment when I was downtime in the store when it wasn't busy and I was tweeting or I was talking to somebody, and then it became apparent probably about year 3, year 4, we went to a couple of seminars, and I saw somebody who is very, very influential across the board. He's a multi-millionaire, and he was talking about social media, and he was talking about how it is changing. And it's true. It's like, even when you come to conferences like this, there'll be a couple of people that they will come to the conference, but they won't be listening. They'll be on their phones, checking their emails, seeing what their friends are doing, all sorts of things. So we started changing everything to gear towards not just bombarding customers with, hey, look at me, this is what I sell. We changed it dramatically to, this is the baby grow that's with the baby in it, really cute, that a customer had shared with us, and we put it onto the social media. So because obviously it was a cute newborn baby wearing something cute, all our customers shared it to their friends. And all of a sudden it was like, this is not a chore anymore because we're not having to do a lot of the work. Customers are doing it for us. The word of mouth, which was once upon a time in the village from person to person, all of a sudden was 24/7 going on in the background. Facebook then approached us and said, we've noticed, for whatever reason we'd popped up on their radar, we've noticed some of the things you're doing and we'd like to help you. So we weren't really sure how that was going to pan out. We actually thought it was a bit of a trick. It's like, why would Facebook come to us? And they said, well, we'd like to feature you, but help you. And they actually helped us with our advertising to the point where we literally became one of their success stories, and we were featured on their main page next to Lego. So the amount of, again, traffic we got from that, which was, again, although we had to pay for our adverts, they helped us with a Facebook manager. They're extremely rare. They're like the golden unicorn. So if you ever get approached by like Facebook and they'll say they've got a manager to help you, I grab it with open arms. But from that point onwards, we realised that there's so much you can do with the social media. So I don't know how many of you have you all got social media accounts for your businesses? Anyone? Some of you? No, a couple.
You mean what, like a Facebook page?
Facebook page, Snapchat page, Instagram. And does everyone post daily?
What was post dating?
Post daily. Post once a day.
Oh, okay.
So I think, how many people, put your hand, anyone post daily? A couple. Anyone post more than once a day? Okay. So it suddenly goes down to all these people in the room that when you've got your business, obviously you want to be encouraging people to see what it is you do as a business. And if you're not posting, you're not there. They'll look at somebody else. They'll look at somebody else's cool ice cream, somebody else's family having fun. With the other thing we also found that once we transitioned, which was literally this year, we made the move from London to Florida. We had a whole new ice cream business where we had to start from scratch. The company had been in business for 2 years, but Rob and I were then faced with all of a sudden this lovely, lovely Facebook page of the old company, which we could put a post out and would be shared 200-300 times without putting any money towards it. We're now, this time, 4 months on, at the same thing. We've got to start it all again But the difference with this company is, and this is where the machines come in, Jeff's help comes in, all of that kind of kicks in, is that the reviews. And the biggest source now of people that are looking to take their children out for family ice cream will be through the reviews. When those people come through the door, we have a beach opposite us, we're in a lovely location, but that's great for holiday makers, but what about when they go home? Then we don't want to be stuck with an empty shop. So we've been working really, really hard to make sure that it's not just becomes about the holiday maker or the seasonal. We want to be open all year round. And the previous owners of the company actually had really good reviews. And then you had to take us two British people, put us in a different country with a different business and sustain those reviews. And we've already learned in 4 months lots of things, had to explain to customers why we keep the lids on. And some customers, obviously, literally, they want to see the products. And I have to agree with them. It's like when you walk in, I'm a very visual person, I like to see the colours. When you put lids on something and they're looking at something that's just completely plain, it's boring. And I get it. And I'm the first one to agree with them when they come in, because the kids do that and they're really excited and then like, oh, there's white lids. And then we have to explain to them why we keep the ice cream like that. And if we take the lids off, and then if they want to sample, and we do sample, I did try not to go down the route of sampling, and that did not work well. I really didn't want to be black and blue. It did not work well. And I think, again, it panders to the location of what you want to, how far you want to go for your customer. And as well as working out, when we took it over, it was pandemonium with samples. It was, people would stand there and there was no limits to the way it was managed in the sense of how many samples they would have. And then we hit July 3rd, and we had to say to people, you know, we need to keep moving things on. We had a 20-minute wait, which for a new business, people lined out beside the door. And we would kind of do it in such a way that was a little bit more subtle, that after the kind of the third sample, if it was a fourth sample, there was a little bit less on, or the thing I've been known to do, which is stand there with the scoop in my hand and no more sample spoons and say, right, you know, who's ready to order? But you have to balance that, because people have come to expect samples, because they don't want to pay you $4, $5, $6 for an ice cream that stinks. Now, you know, and I know, when you're using these machines and you're using the recipes, this is the killer bit, because what you'll get a kick out of, and I still, even now, I mean, I'm only 4 months in, obviously Jeff's a lot longer than me, is when you make a great ice cream, and we've just made a great Oreo pumpkin spice one, and it is amazing. And even I was shocked how amazing it was, and that's compared to all the other recipes we've made. Thank you. But we gave it the samples to people that like, do you like Oreo? And they're like, can't. We'll try this. And they weren't even prepared to try that. They wanted to try butter pecan or their regular thing. And you see their faces and how excited they are. And then you get the next person and the next person and the next person, all in the family will have this new product that you've only created literally the day before. And that particular flavour is literally gone to like number 2 out of, we chart on our system every flavour we sell, and in the space of 1 week that's gone to number 2 of what everybody buys. And that's just literally from having a bit of diversity, using these machines. Then we also started sending out messages on Instagram, across the board literally, about what we were doing, how we were doing it, doing a little competition as well, which again, being such a new business, I didn't actually think would work. I thought, well, I'll try it. Screenshot picture of this free cone with our Oreo pumpkin spice, bring it in, and you know, you'll get a free ice cream. And because we're so new, I thought, well, yeah, it may not work. An hour later, a girl came in. She said, I've seen your post. And she said, this was what the great thing was. She said, I've seen your post, but I might not want your free ice cream because I don't know what it tastes like. I might want to pay for the salted caramel. And I said, well, you can't say fairer than that. So she tried the ice cream we were giving away, sample for free. She went, I'll take that one. And little things like that. She then went off from that post and then posted to all her friends. But it's getting the community to learn about your products so that they can be your biggest advocates. Because when you fling your doors open and you're all excited and you've got this brand new store and you've got all these bits and you think you've worked so hard, you haven't worked hard at all. That's the easy bit. The easy bit is fitting out the shop. The easy bit is getting all your licenses. It's the hard bit is making sure you sustain the customers coming in and also having such a great experience that they go off and the review sites. You know, the review sites are so important. We get people coming in every day, and I'm there currently 7 days a week. And if I see someone that I don't recognise, I will generally say to them, "Oh, how did you find us?" And more often than not, it's Google, occasionally Facebook, word of mouth. And then even then, when they say word of mouth, I go for, "Oh, so was it someone local?" No, it was a realtor or it was this person. And I expect that we're only 4 months in. By next year, that I won't have to be there 7 days a week. But there'll be somebody else that can take that over, because obviously then I can build more social media strategy to what we want to be. But that's the thing to bear in mind, is that this part is having this in place and having Jeff's book straight away. You're off to an easy start, because then you know you're going to make it something that people are going to absolutely be amazed to eat. But I think unless sometimes you're very sceptical, and we came out and I watched, before we bought the business in America and we changed countries, I watched hundreds of hours of their videos. And because you're kind of a bit sceptical, oh, does it really work? Will it work for me? And I think even if you've got a small shop or a big shop, any area you can make it work. But it also comes down to how you deal with the customers, because the customers are the ones, and even if you're in retail having a bad day, you know, you've still got to put a smile on. You might have worked 12, 14 hours, but they're coming in. You know, sometimes they'll come in 10 minutes before you've closed, and they're the ones that still expect you to be smiling because they're coming in for their treat. But I say, you should make your choice whether or not you use. Your question?
Vicki, what would you say the steps are from the beginning to get more social media conscious? What's the first thing people should do, and then the second and third?
Ideally, when you choose your company name, as soon as you've chosen your company name, make sure you secure your company name across every platform so that you can have the consistency. So, for example, obviously we're Hayes Ice Cream. We were very fortunate that the owners that we took over from had Hayes Ice Cream on Facebook. They had Hayes Ice Cream on Twitter. That consistency, so it doesn't get confusing. So if a new platform comes out, it may not necessarily be another Facebook, but if you've got a company in place, grab that name straight away, because you can guarantee, especially if you've got something ice cream, someone else will grab it. And they might be like a 16-year-old kid that wants to play around with something for fun, but that's your business. So if you've got that consistency in place, and then you can choose. You don't have to use every single platform. You can just choose which one that you want to be on. Hi there.
Hi. Just a quick question. So I just have a Facebook page that I use personally, and I just go to it once in a while. I'm not really obsessed with it yet. So when you first put up Hayes Ice Cream, how do you get people directed there? I understand somebody coming in and tweeting, 500 friends, but initially, how do you get everything, the traffic directed to your site?
It's not going to happen instantly unless you're prepared to throw money at any of these sites. Obviously now that, especially with Facebook being as it is, it depends what you want to do. If you know, for example, that the demographic of the people that you want are going to be whatever age you're targeting, 35 to 50. So, for example, you've got your Facebook page. Once you do some posts and you start getting people to like your posts, if you choose to, you can either choose to boost it, and you can go behind the scenes and basically target that advert and take that advert and say to Facebook, I want to spend $10 a day and I would like to show this advert to women that are 35 to 50. And then you go deeper. You can go as deep as you like. You can then say, well, actually, only ones that like cheerleading and soccer.
So you're paying for the...
Yeah. If you want to be specific, and it depends. If you want it to grow organically, nowadays, because so many people are on there, it's not like the days of 10 years ago where you could kind of post, and people would see it a lot more. Now Facebook, because obviously, even now Facebook is starting to say that they're filling up their ad space, and anyone who's seen all the ads...
Only 2 adverts are viewed by a person a day.
Is that on Facebook? So unless you're then liking that page and obviously then physically going to visit it. But for us is that the proof of the pudding, I guess, is that when we started out this journey, before we bought this business, I wanted to prove a point to my son, because I've got 2 older boys in the UK who are not social media minded at all. And I said to them, and I did it more to kind of promote him than me, in the sense of to get him to do something like teenage boys. And I said, well, look, I'm going to start an Instagram account based on ice cream all around the world. And, you know, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to post 5 to 6 times a day. And, you know, if you do this with, he was into menswear, you do this with your blog, you can sustain a living. And you could see he didn't believe me. He just didn't believe me. So I knew it was kind of not necessarily going to last. But I started that Instagram page in February. I've put absolutely no money whatsoever towards it. So now February, October, there's now 17.1 thousand followers on that one page. I'm not making any money out of it. I'm not targeting anybody, but I wanted to prove to him and myself that it could be done.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to say, that's had no money posted towards it. And the kicker for that particular account is, I'll probably say 95% of the posts that I've put on there aren't mine. They're reposts from other people. I found them and gone, that's an awesome photo. I've reposted it onto that account to show people. And that's the brand of the ice cream adventurer, because there's all different ice creams around. There is more ice creams than I ever knew existed in every single country that people do, the fads, the trends. And so now, if I put a post out on there that's a good post from, say, like a friend said to me, well, actually, I've got a really cool shot, post it onto that account, they range anywhere from 300 likes going up to 8,000 likes. And that's crazy. That's crazy. All these people looking at stuff that's not costing me anything.
So you threw out a number, $300 a month, right? $10 a day.
Yep.
First question, is that realistic for Facebook?
It depends on who you're targeting, and it depends as well. It will give you, on the drop down, it will tell you, it will say $10 a day equates to an average of. Now, back in the day that when Rob and I were advertising, when we were doing that, we were actually getting more. It was amazing. And like, it's that point you knew it's never ever going to last, but it used to say approximately if you spend £50 a day, you'll get 2,000 to 3,000 average views or clicks or something like that. But because then you look at your advert and you can see your organic reach is like, I don't know, 3,000, and then it does a little bar where you see paid 5,000, 6,000. But then obviously the back end of that, those ones there, they're sharing with other people. So you're then getting more traffic that you're not paying for.
Okay, they're not going to, you can't pay $10 and have 1 day. So are there contracts?
Yeah, you pay whatever you like. You want to do 1 day, 3 days, 5 days. I've put an advert on, and I've looked at it after a couple of hours, and I've looked at it and I'm like, it's not one of our better ones, and I've turned it off.
And how do the sites market those? How do they zero in on what your demographic would be?
I tell them. I tell them
but
where I want my advert
where
to
do
show.
they put them?
They have Facebook, obviously knows everything about everybody. So they knows all your likes, dislikes. There's people that have obviously put, like mums that have had babies, people that have just got engaged. You can even target people that have just got married. It is so specific.
So how
now.
would you apply that to an ice cream store?
You can... Well, actually, Rob used to run more Facebook adverts than me, so he's waving frantically.
So from the perspective of what we can do is we can target people that are actually going to come to our area on holiday. People that are saying they're going to come to Indian Shores. So we can target them in their home country or town or countries or wherever, and target them before they even come. They can plan to come to our store. So we can show on the newsfeed. So when you log into Facebook and you look at your profile or whatever, it will come up as an advert saying, hey, we recommend Hayes Ice Cream. And then they'll see the reviews, and then they'll go, hey, this will be a good place to go, part of our journey. And
So you can specify as a demographic people coming into the area.
into the area.
What else?
You can do it by age, by gender, by...
But if you do it by age, it's not target specific. I mean, it's all over.
You could narrow it right
Because
down.
as you know, we generally draw from 3 miles away.
Yeah, so if you wanted to do it for yours, you could do it by zip code area.
Okay.
You could just locate just a specific, for example, the area where all your demographic is, you could just target everybody in there. Now, admittedly, it may not necessarily work if they don't have a Facebook account because of the age of them, so then you might want to go on to something else that may be a little wider in that sense. So
For instance?
So So you could go for a bigger area, or you could go for a different age demographic in that sense.
And how about something other than Facebook?
So you can do the thing with Twitter's not so good nowadays.
No.
Instagram is better. Instagram's part of Facebook, which is they're using the same algorithm, so they're using the same display methods.
Generally, it's going to be Facebook, right?
Facebook is a big one.
What about Google?
Google's pretty good for search. YouTube is really good. Videos are excellent. We use videos quite a lot now. It's just even sort of 3, 4, 7 videos are much better than static posts.
The second biggest search is Google.
Yeah, so YouTube is pretty good. I mean, people tend to go to YouTube to learn stuff, not so much about kind of where to go and what to do. Yeah, I mean, it's getting a little bit better about sort of shop reviews and stuff like that.
Are there people emerging as an industry who will do this for companies?
Oh yeah. And I'll be very, very careful about approaching any of these companies because they'll take a lot of your money and give you very little risk.
So how would I do that?
We always say what we've done is there's lots of videos on YouTube about it. Learn yourself. If you're happy to take the time and learn yourself, you'll go through more trial and error and learn what's good for your business than somebody else that's more interested in making money for their business off of you.
So what would be a good YouTube search to begin with?
Advertising on Facebook,
Okay.
advertising on
Okay.
Instagram.
Because you could also do for your area, you could do something like where you're going to have an event. So you promote an event and then you've got it all up on your Facebook page and then you start targeting the people that live local to you and say, obviously, this event. And then you'll start to see people saying, not interested or
And how
thinking
long
about
do
going.
you give it on a daily basis before you pull it and say that's not working? What's your trial time?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve as well. That's the other thing, because obviously if you're saying that you're selling something because it's seasonal, because before that we had a retail business, so we'd have seasons and we'd have things like that. So 3-4 days for an advert. Sometimes, if an advert's really good and it's obvious that it's really good, you get in there quick and throw more money at it because you can see it's resonating with the customer by whatever you're offering, if it's a freebie or if it's cute. And so it's one of those things you keep an eye. It's like watering a plant. You're kind of looking after it the whole time.
Aside from people showing up to patronize your place or take advantage of a special that you put on, how else do you track them to see if it's successful?
Well, you'll see very much on that page whether it's worth doing again, in the sense of obviously the return that you're getting from the numbers. You're not always going to know unless you know your customers. And how many people clicked on it? Yep, you'll be able to see that. Literally all the details come out for that. But the other thing that I also found out recently, which I had no idea about, but I don't particularly use Yelp, but Yelp have a facility where you can pay to advertise to be above your competitors. So if, for example, you're in Brooksville and there's a couple of other ice cream places around that might have better reviews and might be more populated, you can actually pay and it will appear when somebody types Brooksville, the 2 5-star ones will be there, but you're paying for an ad, you'll be above. And not everybody always looks at it and goes, oh, that's an ad, so they've paid money. So I've not used that facility yet, but I can imagine it could be quite an eye-catching one. Hi.
On Facebook, if you cast a fairly wide net, or like in the instance of seasonal people,
Yep.
let's say that they come to your shop and they really like it, so when they go home, they want to send for it.
Yep.
Do you do shipping?
We don't currently ship, no.
Okay.
We have lots of customers that would be jumping for joy if we did. We have said that's something that we might look at. At the moment, we're just on the verge of working out with Uber Eats, which is quite an unusual thing because there's not many ice cream places that have there's a lot in California that do ice cream for Uber Eats, but not in Florida.
I think there are certain days of the week they ship, like Mondays or Wednesdays, because there's a limited time for dry ice and so. But I didn't know if it was worth it to even bother.
Yeah, at this stage, because we're quite new to it, we're sort of finding our feet with everything as well. But yeah, there's lots of avenues you can go. But the other big thing I need to mention as well is that when you when you get reviews, hopefully for your sake and your business's sake, they're going to be positive. Either way, whether they're positive or negative, respond. Respond. That person has taken time out of their day to, in most cases, visit you, spend their hard-earned cash with you, bring their children or their loved ones to you. The worst thing you can do after they put, whether it be negative or positive, you just go, oh yes, great, got a 5-star review, and move on. They've taken the time out of their day. We respond to every single review
Well-
across every single platform.
Well, a few weeks ago, we got 487 five-star great
Yep.
reviews, and we got one negative one.
Yep.
We wouldn't let this lady's daughter sing on karaoke night because she was 5 years old, and nobody likes that anyway. So they told her no.
Yep.
But we had one dislike, and one of our girls said, I'm going to get back on and answer her.
Yep.
And I said, don't do it, because all you're doing is getting into a pissing contest, because she's going to respond back to that, and you're going to create this out of that.
That's what I used to think. That's what I used to think.
That's why you have to really watch how you
Yeah,
respond.
you just have to be very, very careful how you manage it, and you have to handle it in such a way as you would if she was in front of you, saying, "I'm very sorry," you know, as you would fully appreciate. We have a busy store, you know, we take on board your comments, and you know, maybe it's something we'll look at doing in the future. Thank you for coming, and then
Well,
you know they
I
may
still got to
respond.
disagree, because she's going to come right back. If she took the time to write a nasty review, no matter what you say, you can't appease her. She's going to take
Maybe.
the time to write a second one.
But it's not about, sorry to interrupt, but it's not necessarily about her. It's about what other people will see. It's about the impression other people are going to see about how you respond to that person. If you respond to others, or if you ignore everybody, they're going to say, well, they don't respond to reviews. But if you ignore that one because of that fear, they're going to go, well, is that how they deal with it? If I have a complaint, how will they deal with me? How will they interact with that store? And people are naturally negative anyway, because people will go and go, people come into our store going, I hope this is going to be as good as the reviews. And you kind of go, you try it. You know? I'm not here to convince you, I make it, I love it. That's why I'm here. I've done a lot of work to get here. If you love it, great. Tell someone about it.
Well, that's a good point, how you respond, because they're reading that too.
Yeah, and if she wants to come back, and there will be people come back. I ran the gauntlet of my first personal negative one, and it's kind of like eBay reviews. You always know that you buy from a seller that's got 10,000 feedbacks, but don't you spend 5 minutes of your life when they get one negative. What did they get? What did they get? What did some? You don't dwell on the fact that person sent out 9,990 things perfectly. As a human being, we seem to be trained to find the kind of one thing that's going to be, oh, look, you know, they missed the delivery for that poor child's birthday. But what about all these other people over here? And we had a really, really busy evening, and we just had one particular customer who decided that in her wisdom, even though all her family had their ice creams, she was going to go for a 7th sample. And at that point, I said to her, we need to move on. And the girls were around me, and I wasn't rude, and I wasn't nasty, and that's all I said, we need to move on. And behind her was about 45 people that were kind of almost like that, like wilting, like it's like, please, like, move over. And we carried on the night, and my words to Rob were, mark my words, give it 48 hours, something will come up. And sure enough, it did, literally within about 12 hours. But what I learned was, and I think this is where it then tells to what Rob said, she put that she wasn't allowed to take more than one sample. So it was a little bit of, and then the woman was rude, which I wasn't. I just didn't. She didn't like the way I spoke to her.
Of course, it's always that way.
Yeah. So it sometimes happens like that. So I responded and said, I'm sorry that you experienced this. Unfortunately, we have to monitor these things, in bigger situations, and fully expecting there might be a response. But there wasn't. And I've had one other. And this is the thing we
So
have.
you wouldn't write back, you fat slob, one sample's enough for you, don't come back.
I wanted to take Wendy's stance and say, well, actually, you actually took 6 samples, and the CCTV footage shows the 6 samples.
And please don't come back.
But
You write that, but don't press it.
It's always that send button, isn't it?
yeah. But that's the thing, you just got to monitor it. And the same way as that I also recently learned that customers are way, way, way smarter than you'll think they are. You might think they're just coming in for ice cream. We've actually had a customer that admitted to us that they actually check, I'm not sure what you guys call it, but what's it called? Where the State Health Department has a website, phenomenal wealth of information of where everybody's kind of tripped up. And if your store is good, great, good standing. But if you, like some of the stores, as we subsequently discovered, have been closed down for health reasons. And we had a customer come in with his family, and he admitted to us that he'd actually gone onto this website before he come to visit us to see how good we were with food hygiene. And whenever he takes his family out anywhere in Florida, he lives in Orlando, he always checks that website before he takes his family in. And it got me thinking, because I thought, well, I don't with my daughter, but then having some of the stores that we've seen nearby to us, some of the violations that they've got, I thought, well, yeah, he's probably right in the sense of obviously him not wanting to kind of risk his family's health. But we just think they're popping in for ice cream. Some people is way, way different than that as to what they're coming in for. They're coming in because they've checked out you online, that you're clean, you're tidy, that your reviews. Some come in because they do want to prove you wrong. But those reviews don't cost you anything. Again, if you give good service, you give the good ice cream, you do all the things that you need to do, those reviews will come in and obviously help you sell your business without you having to put any money towards it.
Just to finally add to the negative aspect, we used to get very, very defensive when we used to have negative reviews back in the UK. In fact, it would take us probably 2-3 days to get over a negative review. It used to wind us up, and I'm very much a scorpion, and I would go off and I'd check their own Facebook page, what they've done to other people. And I'd almost stalk
I'm there.
So am I.
The scorpion.
But once we got over that element and we didn't take it personally, we started to realise actually they had a valid point of view from their perspective. We may not necessarily agree that they had a valid point of view, but it also adds balance. When we've got 5-star reviews across all the board, people come on and go, you can't have, these must be fake.
Right.
So when we have a negative, we go, okay, they had a negative experience, we're really sorry, come in, we'll try and make it right next time. But for us, it's good because it adds a positive experience to the overall balance of people looking at us going, well, actually they're doing really good, but they do make the odd mistake. So for us, it's not necessarily a negative.
What you're talking about in general, I was just saying earlier that I went to a whole bunch of shops, almost obsessively looking at everyone that I go to.
Yep.
And my impression with most of them is that, and hopefully I'm sure yours is an exception, but I kind of got the impression that they were all like maybe college kids who were just sort of bored. And so it would seem that training your people is like a big part of it, because some of them just were just hanging out, and
The kids don't want to be there.
Was zilch.
Yeah, some of the customer service, kids don't want to be there. They
That was what
don't,
most of them were like.
and also what they don't understand is they come into an ice cream shop thinking it's all fun, and they don't realise that you need to be physically and mentally fit for it, especially even like when the girls are on 3-4 hours, scooping hard ice cream, and even that's a knack. They think that's going to be a doddle, and then they start realising, oh, hang on a minute, there's an art to this. But again, the customer service and the training that you give them, and we're 10 years in and we're still learning, because each individual that comes to us that we recruit, you'll see that CV kind of attitude, and then once that's gone and they're in it, and then you'll explain to them about food preparation and everything that goes with it. And that's why, as a mum and pop shop, it's a very different experience, that people love coming in to see that, because they don't come in as a local business just for that aspect. They come in to see the whole thing. They ask about our daughter, they ask about, if we want to go home yet. When we come in, they'll ask about how we got on with the hurricane. It's a community. And if you build your ice cream store with good ice cream and the right products, and you build it like a community, you'll always have people that will talk good of you and tell others. If you build it like, I'm just going to make pure money, the passion will be gone. The passion needs to be way up there with that you enjoy making ice cream. If you don't want to work 7 days a week and 12, 14 hours a day, and you think you can skimp by closing 2 or 3 days a week, this business is not the right business for you.
Do you get involved in community fundraisers or events very often?
Well, we've only been there 4 months, but what we did before the hurricane was we had a surreal experience where we suddenly realised we'd just arrived and we were about to lose our whole business with the hurricane coming, because we're on the Gulf Coast. And then Rob and I had a chat about it, and I said, well, one thing's for sure, I know we're going to lose all the ice cream, because whether we're in Florida or whether we drive up to Atlanta, we're going to lose all the ice cream. So we put social media messages out there and said, if you're in the Indian Shores area, come and get free ice cream. all we're asking is that there's a tub on the side, donations for the Red Cross. Because I said to the people coming in, people genuinely came in and were like, "You're giving away free ice cream?" I said, "Yeah, because I know I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. 2 days from now, it's going to have to be all dumped." So I think over the course of that, and then when we returned, we raised $150 for the Red Cross. But it was something that, it was like the best thing to do in the circumstances, to turn it around rather than just go, "Well, I'm not selling it to anyone and it's going to get ruined and I'm going to throw it away." And the community, we got so much, it was just an ad hoc thing, which is like, I don't really want to throw this away. What can I do with it? And I knew there wouldn't be tons of people because obviously a lot of people are already evacuated, and we took it down to municipal offices, and we literally said, because we didn't want it to spoil, we were passionate about our product. There's nothing worse, and Jeff will testify how much gallons he lost in a hurricane, to not give it to somebody and see it all washed away.
I could have given it to that lady who ate all the samples.
Exactly. Could have shipped it all
She'll
over.
be
to
right
her.
over.
Actually, there is a positive note on that, because obviously a few days after that, her boyfriend did actually pop up on a different platform. And as soon as he started typing the response, and as soon as I saw it, I could not stop laughing, because obviously I'd got quite upset personally about being called something that, you know, I'd be the first to say if I was. But on this particular occasion, I wasn't. So I was like, I know exactly who you are because the way you worded this. Because we're such a small company, it was great. And I had the beauty of, I thought I'm going to get to the response before Rob does, because he'll tell me not to send it. But I just put on there, thank you for your comments. I believe we've addressed your girlfriend's comments on another platform. And that was it. And like I said to Rob, I said, I know, I don't care whether they read it or don't read it. But it's such a small world when you're a mum and pup shop. And people will talk about you, whether you like it or not. So it's really how much time. I mean, I love social media, and I love ice cream, and I love being in retail. So between Rob and I, that works as such a great team. But if you have a great team in place, people you can rely on, if you're not there all the time, all of that, you know, the money is. Yes, we need the money, and obviously if we don't make money, obviously Rob and I will be back to the UK. But it's a byproduct of the success. And seeing people taste the samples, it never tires. When I see people taste the samples, you see their eyes roll to the back of their head, and it's like giving them some kind of weird drug they've never had before. Their eyes roll to the back of their head and they go, wow. And that's what I want to try and translate into somehow. The next thing for social media for me is to get some kind of time-lapse camera that I can get that on people. Because it's like bottling it up. It's like seeing, like they don't expect it to be that good, which makes you think, what crappy ice cream have they had elsewhere that they come in and this is like the best thing? And you know that because when they leave out the door, very often, we put signs up round just saying, you know, follow us on all these platforms. And on the receipts, which very rarely a receipt goes out if you'd like to review us. So they're not even said. It's not even like I say to people, oh, please review us. We don't. We let them do what they want to do. But literally most of them review us within 48 hours of coming.
You know, being very newly open in a small business, how much of your time and people do you have devoted to all of your accounts and, you know, running and replying to all of your reviews?
I'm a bit obsessive.
How do you balance that with all of your other, you know, business tasks that you need to get done?
I balance it in the space of there is so much time that you can spend checking on friends' feeds and all the other things that people do, watching Game of Thrones, Netflix, catch up, chatting with friends. Because we're growing a business from scratch and because we've always been very, very dedicated to what we do, is I probably spend most of my waking time, if I'm not serving customers. And this is the other thing, sometimes customers will walk in and they'll see me on my phone and they may assume, which quite a lot do, it's like your teenager thing that you're texting or whatever, but I'm not. I'm putting out content all the time. And the videos is the biggest thing that will come through next with Insta Story, video in your store, video in your staff. And then we did it with the London company where we actually had people visit from other parts of the UK to meet members of our staff because they'd seen them. A bit like when Steve's on camera all the time. People come in and they, like one of our girls, where's Kirsten? Guy had come all the way from Devon. Like he'd literally taken a day off work to come up and train because he'd watched through videos and he'd evolved the process of our lives. And when he came to meet us in person, he said, oh, I didn't think you would be so down to earth. He said, like you are on the camera. I said, well, we're exactly the same. We're not. It's not like the Kardashians. It's our business. We've put it online for you to see what we do, what we make, And we were also very lucky that the team we had in London, we had some great personalities. So we kind of spent a lot of time laughing, which is, when you're in a retail business, you've got to have that downtime as well. But I think I should leave it there, because
I
otherwise
hate
I
to
could
sound
probably
like the
talk.
press secretary for the President of the
No,
United
that's
States,
fine.
but
I'm
thank you
gonna
very
talk
much
for
for coming. We're going to break. That was fantastic. What a great amount of knowledge. We're going to break for lunch now, and we'll bring it in, and then we'll get back to making some ice cream after lunch.
You were going to say more ice cream's coming in.
Great job. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That was wonderful. All right, now we're going to make an ice cream that you can't afford to make. But
CSC.
it's still something really great to make, especially around Christmas time, holidays. If you're tired of giving Uncle Harry
The CSC
a
is the one on
tie
the
from
front?
Brooks Brothers that he really doesn't need. Hello, everybody. Instead of giving a tie out, you can give out this ice cream. It's really spectacular. Grand Marnier liqueur ice cream. If you're not familiar with Grand Marnier, it's an orange liqueur from France. It's about $40 a bottle for this size bottle. That's a lot of money, but it's a spectacular ice cream. The first time I'm aware of this being made was myself and an attorney in Philadelphia. We came up with this flavor, working together. And I'll never forget it, because I sold the attorney a machine for her ice cream parlor, and her offices were in the same building as the Philadelphia Stock Exchange. So I was, young and foolish, and I took down the information, and I'd been drinking some Grand Marnier ice cream. And so we built the machine, we shipped it to her. All of a sudden, I get a call from the head of the Philadelphia Stock Exchange and says, we have this large box that says ice cream making machine, and it's on the floor of the exchange. What do you want us to do with it? Because I had forgotten that it wasn't going to her ice cream parlor, and I sent it to her office. But that was the first time Grand Marnier liqueur ice cream had been made. And I still use it as a great gift around the holidays. And it's very simple, as you can see from the recipe. It's going to be the dairy blend. It's going to be the Grand Marnier. And I take some California navel oranges.
Throw them right in.
Yeah. Alrighty. Throw out the ceremonial first pitch. They have the thickest. I'm not using the orange. I'm using the skin, what they call the zest. On a navel orange, it's really rough, and there's a lot of it. And I'm going to grate it off, so that in my product, I have this. The Grand Marnier is an orange liqueur, and so, hello. I'm going to have this pure white product with the smell, and the aroma, and the taste of the orange liqueur, and I'm going to have little specks of orange in it, strictly for looks. So it's going to be really nice, and that's all there is to it. I asked Jeff when he makes it.
Careful.
Oh, right. Okay. Never mind. I won't tell you what I asked Jeff. But I find it's a strong liqueur, so you don't have to use a huge amount of it. It's not something that I think you can sell retail, but you could sell it as a party ice cream. There are plenty of people having private parties around the holidays, and there's no reason you couldn't make a 2.5-gallon tub of this and sell it for about $100 or more as a special event. You can be sure that the hostess, no other party she goes to at Christmas is going to have this flavor. It's just that unique. So make sure the gate's closed. I went to clean the machine, and the gate was open, and I almost had a major crisis. Here's my mix.
So what do you want to talk about now?
Oh, I got something to follow up on this while it's running. Oh, it sure is. You're supposed to tighten the knobs. I got it. I forgot to tighten the knobs. One thing about doing a live performance, if something can go wrong, it will. I once heard we had a program up in New York on the radio. I'm a big radio nut, called Rambling with Gambling. And John Gambling was saying that the programs that seem to be the most casual are the ones that are most highly scripted.
Here, you sit.
Now, I'm not saying Jeff and I are highly scripted. This is called hot dough. I'm not
dough?
hot.
Hot dough.
Hot.
Hot dough. Here, Chinese food.
It does take us days and days to plan this out.
Oh, to the minute.
Well, not to the minute, but
To the second, you're right.
You know, it's harder for me than Jeff because I'm not in the business of making ice cream, so I don't have everything around all the time.
You're kidding.
I
You're
have
not an ice cream
machines.
maker?
No,
You're a machine
I
maker.
play one on TV. However, if you ask me, this is the attitude you have to have in your business. If you ask me who makes the world's best ice cream, I used to get asked that question all the time at trade shows, and it's fully a loaded question because I could say it's Buy Right Creamery in San Francisco. I could say it's Jeff and Fruit Loops. I could say it's Ample Hills in Brooklyn. And that means I'm going to offend the rest of the industry. So I just tell people the best ice cream maker in the world is me. And then I go, to confession and say, God, forgive me, because that ain't true. Okay, we've got the mix in. I'm going to start this. I'm going to run it at super premium. Start, refrigeration, and we're off. Now I'm going to measure out the Grand Marnier.
Why? Dump it in.
Oh, all right. No. Because I don't know what the timing will be. It's got alcohol. Oh, it's spitting. Oh, the cost involved here. Okay. That was easy. Now I'm just going to grate the zest and put that
this in too.
No, I got to save
It won't hurt it.
No, that's Paula's. I had to save it for the office party. She has one drink a year. Another thing that you're going to run into while I'm doing the oranges is a lot of you will start out the way Jeff does and will probably grow and graduate into going down a different road, and that is with dipping cabinets, hardening cabinets, the whole works. We have a list at emerythompson.com of what I call key suppliers, people I've worked with for many years. I know that their products are good. I don't take a dime from anyone. I don't have to, but also I don't want to because I want to be able to give you straight, honest answers. If you call up and say, what do you think of so-and-so, so-and-so's product, I'll tell you if I like it or not. So I just put this together the other day just to give you a couple things because, we've had some minor changes. If you need something, real fast, I don't know, like some cups or some tubs or some spatulas, and you're not buying in large quantities, there's a business that is very popular with everyone called Web Restaurant Store. It's at the top here. Here's the problem. You go looking for it, and it must have been a domain name problem at some time, because when you get this piece of paper, you're going to see that I have spelled out web, W-E-B, and then restaurant, and then store.com. You'll never find them using that website because in the word restaurant, the R and the E are dropped. So it's webstrantstore.com. And that gets a little confusing, but it's a great place. Everybody I know uses them. You're going to need hardening cabinets and dipping cabinets, and I've made a bit of a change there. I've talked to the manufacturers and have arrangements with them now that you can buy direct on dipping cabinets and hardening cabinets from two companies. One is C. Nelson Manufacturing, which is in, I believe, Ohio, and they are top of the line dipping cabinets. They don't make hardening cabinets. They cost more than others, but I can tell you, my little dipping cabinet over there is 20 years old and never had a problem with it. Not everybody.
You want to do this?
Yeah, would you?
What do you want to do?
I want to zest it.
And put it in there?
Yeah.
You have a zester?
Yeah. Do you mind?
I've never done this before.
Oh.
Which one would you use?
I would use, yeah.
No. You're putting it in the machine?
Yeah.
So you want to use a small one, right?
That's good. I like that one. So instead of going through a dealer who's going to mark up the costs, I've made arrangements with Nelson Company and Global Refrigeration. Global, we all know it in the industry. It was called Kelvinator for many years, and then they changed the name to Global. And they have hardening cabinets, dipping cabinets, storage freezers, and I've put down the contacts on both of these. At Nelson, it's Tammy Almendinger or George Dunlap, and their phone number is there. And at Global Refrigeration, it's their Senior Vice President, Marty Hendricks. And you call up either of these, and again, I'm telling you honestly, I don't get 1 cent out of these people. What I get is a great reputation for, giving honest answers. Global Refrigeration is you just call them up. You're going to be talking to the Senior Vice President, and they can tell you the pricing. And they're going to give you a larger discount than any dealer that they work with. So you're going to do very well there. I put Green Mountain Flavors down because it's just so spectacular that now, I've told this story before, and if you've heard the videos, seen the videos, you know it, that Stan Sitton, I wanted to make a bright cherry Italian ice. And traditionally, when you made a cherry Italian ice, you watch kids eat it and their hands turn bright red dye 40. People have gotten smarter. The millennial age group has gotten a lot smarter than us. They see bright green, bright red, bright yellow, and they know it's red 40, yellow 17, green 6. And
Superman ice cream. What about Superman ice cream?
You need color sometimes, but they see it. They look at those colors and say that's artificial. Well, Stan has come up with extracts and colors that are all natural from Green Mountain Flavors, his company. And I tell this story. He sent me a bottle of concentrated beet juice. Nobody in the world likes beets except my wife Paula. She likes beets. Everybody else, who wants beets? So I call up Stan and I say, hey Stan, I'm from the Bronx and I'm telling people how to make Italian ice. You really think I'm going to sell beet juice Italian ice? Come on. And he starts laughing. He said, no, Steve, beets are the reddest thing in nature. So we take the beets because of the color. We get rid of the beet taste and we essence it down to, boil it down to whatever they do, down to a color, a food color that's made from beets. So now you've got this bright red product in your cabinet, and the mother looks and goes, oh, I don't want my children eating that. Oh no, ma'am, that color comes from beets. Well, you've made such a huge impression on her that she's going to come buy everything from you. And he's got great extracts. He's got sometimes I mentioned this morning you had to bolster something like a cantaloupe. And so you can buy a cantaloupe extract from him and get the extra oomph that you can't get just from the fruit itself. He's got these all-natural colors. And Stan is just one of the smartest people I've met. And he happens to be the president of the company. And like me, he'll pick up the phone and talk to you direct. So I find that helpful to you. A lot of people ask about filling pints and quarts. The simple answer is you do it by hand until the labor is killing you. Because a filler is going to cost you. How you doing there?
This will be the last one.
Okay. Good. I think the pint business is really tremendous and you need to go after it. Because we used to be stuck on price. I was just in the supermarket yesterday and I saw that Ben & Jerry was $3.99, Haagen-Dazs was $4.39. That Halo top was $5.50. What a ripoff. There are now a lot of, like you will be doing, you could call it designer ice creams, specialty ice creams. But since it's in a pint container, you can get away with getting $8 or $9 in many markets for a pint of ice cream. Because again, it's a treat, it's something that you want, and so you don't mind paying a little extra. I'll be with you in a minute. You don't mind paying a little extra for it. So having a cabinet where you can sell pints right there, you hand pack them. People always say, well, I want to fill them out of the machine. Well, imagine this. You've got a steak in the oven. Let's call your oven a batch oven for a minute. You put a batch of steak in, and you broil it to medium rare. And then you want to take the whole batch out. If you take the whole batch out, now you got a medium rare steak. If you take that batch out one slice at a time, here's a slice, put on the plate. Here's a slice, put on the plate. By time you finish, and that's like filling pints. By time you finish slicing up that steak, the first steak is medium rare and the last steak is burned to a crisp because that oven is still cooking. So batch freezers, by their very name, are meant to make a batch of product. Cappigiani came up with a door that they told people you could fill pints with, and they had to buy them all back because they got sued because obviously they didn't understand the concept of a batch freezer, that you can't fill one at a time because your first one's way heavier than your last. So the way I do pints is I take all the ice cream out, put it into a tub, throw it in the freezer, and go back to making another flavor. And then I make another flavor. And then after about 40 minutes, if I've got a break, I go back to my first tub and I take a spade, not a spoon, but a more flat, curvy spade, and I'm using that to put the ice cream into the pints, level it off, cap them, and that's how you do it. And you do it that way until the labor is killing you, and then when the labor is just too much, you can go to TD Sawville. Troy Sawville's the president, and he can sell you a semi-automated package filler for about $7,000 that will take a lot of that work out. But not everybody's got $7,000 when they're first opening up. But you cannot, you don't understand, the manufacturer does not understand batch freezers if they're telling you that you can fill at the machine, because you can't. It will make for an uneven product. And the last thing you want, I tell people, McDonald's is a lousy hamburger, but it's the same lousy hamburger in Tampa as it is in Moscow, as it is in Dubai, as it is in San Francisco. When you go through the Golden Arches, you know what you're getting. A lousy hamburger, but it's of a certain quality. You can't have people saying, oh, I bought a pint of ice cream from Steve's Ice Cream last week and it was great, and then, I don't know, it just doesn't taste the same. That's the kiss of death. You need consistency across your products. Now, we're the only machine that you can put alcohol right into the machine because you need a lot of refrigeration. Alcohol freezes at minus 240 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, and we're obviously not going to minus 240. So the alcohol in here is not going to freeze, it's going to stay in suspension in the ice cream. We have enough power that we can do that. Anybody else, you have to drizzle in a fraction of that alcohol as it's coming out, otherwise it'll never freeze. It will take longer to freeze, and it won't be as rock hard as other products, but then when you pull it out of the machine and put it into your freezer cabinet, put it in the corner of the cabinet. Imagine this is my cabinet right here. It's wrapped all the way around in aluminum tubing, and so it's set at, say, 6 degrees. Well, it's 6 degrees here in the center of the cabinet, but over here, there's refrigeration this side and this side. So this corner is actually colder than over here. So if you've got a liquor ice cream, put it in the corners because it's going to get more refrigeration. If you walk into an ice cream parlor and you see the server scooping one product nice and easy and struggling like crazy on the other one, they don't know about, the dipping cabinet configuration. If you have one product that's really rock hard and another that's running soft, like strawberry is going to run softer than vanilla because of the extra sugar from the strawberries, put your strawberry in the corner and your vanilla in the center, and they'll all scoop the same. Okay, let me just take a look here. That's looking good. We can go a little further.
Steve,
Yes.
question. Say, for example, like during the operation right now, if the blackout occurs with the power supply, would it damage the machine in any way?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Say, for example, during the operation right now, if the blackout occurs with the power supply,
Yeah.
would it damage the machine?
Oh, would it damage the machine if we had a blackout? No, but the ice cream's going to start to melt, so grab some spoons and start eating. You had a question back there? No, you didn't? Okay. I know you did, yes.
In terms of alcohol content in ice cream, is there a criteria for percent or?
How much alcohol can you put in ice cream? It's regulated by each individual state. And surprisingly, my home state, New York, which is just, regulation city, has one of the most liberal policies that I've ever seen. So it varies state by state. I did hear a story about Florida. I can't verify it, but it was said that the inspector said, if you make vanilla ice cream with rum in it, and you scoop it and you serve it to someone, that's okay. The rum is an ingredient. If you take that vanilla ice cream, put it in a blender and turn it into a milkshake, that's a mixed drink. That's the most convoluted thing I've ever heard in my life, but I'll go with it. So check with your individual state. Liquor ice creams are interesting. The millennials call it liquor infused, which means we poured a bottle in. The problem I have with it comes from reading a book. It was a novel, and it was supposed to be a guy from New York, Tom Carvel, that we all knew very well. And his son-in-law says, hey, we got to start doing some liquor like ice creams, or at least the names like alcohol. And it killed the business instantly because they were a family type of store, catering to families. And the mother didn't want their 13-year-old going in and ordering rum raisin ice cream with real rum in it. That takes it away out of the family atmosphere. So it really depends on your location.
How we doing?
We're doing good. Still going. It really will depend on your exact location, what you can get away with.
What I do is my business. Yes.
All right, we'll take this out now and let everybody
What
have a
happened to
taste.
the other one? No good?
What? Yeah,
Oh.
I'm saving it. It was just a little loose, and I don't want to
Oh, okay.
mess it up.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Turn off the refrigeration, open the gate. I'm going to up the speed to push it out even faster.
But you swapped flavors, right? Jeff didn't do raspberry chocolate swirl, you did random. Is that what that is?
Yeah, well, his flavor this morning we swapped.
Thank you.
He changed flavors this morning. We'll have to redo it.
Now, I'll tell you what, next time you make this, in our shop, it's a big seller with chocolate chips. It's Grand Marnier, and we throw chips in.
Yeah.
And that would be great. But you gave me, the zest is great.
It looks pretty, doesn't it?
I'm going to zest mine from now
Doesn't
on.
add any flavor.
Well, I think it does, because you're getting the oils.
But it
from-
does. It just looks wonderful.
great. I'm going to do it from now on. I'm going to have Rose zest. I'm going to have Rose zest me the night before.
You were talking about the chocolate and doing something with pieces.
Yeah.
There's a chocolate called enrobling chocolate.
What is it called?
Enrobling, ENROLBING.
Yeah.
I think it has a low melting point. So you melt it in a double boiler, and then you pour it into your machine while the machine's running, and the chocolate hits the cold ice cream and shatters into a regular sized pieces of ice cream of chocolate candy.
I don't see it.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
see
cool.
that happening.
Oh yeah,
Really?
it's got to be enrobling chocolate though, but it's really cool. I learned it up in Sparta, New Jersey,
Huh.
years ago. Everything with me was years ago.
So part of the oh, that's all right. They'll learn. Dennis, part of the class that I teach a 2-day class, and it's everything from beginning to end. Start finding a location, licenses, permits, equipment, manufacture, the whole thing. Anyway, one of the last things we do is we had a question yesterday afternoon, and the question was, well, how do we test a recipe in the machine? And the answer is obvious. You don't test it. That's all right, I'll cut you out of the video. The answer is you don't test a recipe in the machine. What we do is we make it on the counter, right? We made it on the counter. We figured out, we asked what everybody wants. They said, hey, how about this? So on the counter, we take a 1 quart, I won't bother you with all the details, and of course I want you to come to my class, but we take a 1 quart container, just a plastic container like the pink one over there, and we create a recipe in that. until we add, we subtract, we do everything, and then when we get it perfectly according to taste, we multiply it out to fit in any machine that they're using. So yesterday, we decided to make a Nutella ice cream. Everybody know what Nutella is? What is Nutella? Hazelnut. Nutella's hazelnut. But it doesn't taste like hazelnut. It tastes like good chocolate, which is crazy. But hazelnut, Nutella is taking over the world. You can now buy Nutella in little get fat quick things, in case you're not getting fat enough, these will help you get fat between meals. So we developed a recipe, and we didn't make it yesterday. We ran out of time, I guess. We were running late. We went till yesterday evening. So I thought, let's make it today, according to the recipe that we made yesterday. So we'll make it today, and we'll see what... Yes? No. Okay. So we'll make it today. Well, actually, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a choice, because we ran a little long on Vicky's portion, so we had to cut out one of my ice creams. That's okay. It's in the book anyway. So, what would you rather make? The new, untried, untested Nutella ice cream, or tried and true peppermint patty? Nutella. Let's see Nutella. Nutella? Peppermint patty? Vicky, you're done. You're finished. So we'll make the Nutella. And I guess we have chocolate chips here. Let's throw chocolate chips in it, okay? No? Chocolate chips? No chocolate chips. Oh, what are you, anti-American here?
Don't leave them whole. Crush them up if you're going to put them in.
It's enough out of you. Okay, I need mix. So talk amongst yourselves. But as soon as I walk back in here, here comes the mix. All right, so the formula we worked out is, should I give this to them? They didn't work for it. We worked for it. So keep it amongst ourselves? Share. Okay. Only the people who bought my book listen to the recipe. Otherwise, don't listen. Let's see, we're going to need 5 quarts. 5 quarts in a 6-quart bucket. Oh, you're going to do it? Yeah. Hey, my little helper. There's 4. Keep going. Keep going. There we go. Because you'll want to probably keep this. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's only 2 ingredients. Actually, there's 3. I'm going to use some of that real expensive vanilla. This used to be $30. Now, this is this a gallon? This is over $800. So, yeah, US, 800 US. So, don't say anything to anybody, because we're being held hostage by the vanilla manufacturers. That's a story for another day, or a horse of a different color. So, we'll take this will be 5, and we'll pour it in. I did rinse the machine out from, what did we make before? Whatever we made before? What did we make? Pumpkin maple walnut. By the way, the pumpkin recipe is in the book, in case you didn't write it down. So that's the mix. Then we're going to add the Nutella. This is the little jars of Nutella. When I buy it at the store, we use quite a bit of it. I buy it in buckets. All right. Okay. How much we use is, we're going to use probably 20 ounces because yesterday we figured it for 40 in my machine, so we'll go with half, 20 ounces. One second. What was the question? How much mix? 5 quarts. 5 quarts of mix, 20 ounces Nutella, and a little of this. Just a splash for some flavor. This is another one of those Tyranny flavors, and pray tell, it's hazelnut. Now, the Nutella doesn't really taste like hazelnut. It's really like chocolate. So I added this to give it that hazelnutty flavor, and we'll see if it works. Now, we said chocolate chips, right? No. What's with this group? And we'll put some vanilla in. Now, we used 5 quarts of mix, right? So how much vanilla? 5 ounces. And that's it. As with any new recipe, we'll taste this a few times. We'll taste this a few times, one right now, and then one a little less than halfway through so that we can make adjustments, because it's brand new. Even with recipes, say the book. Where's the book? You didn't open it yet? In the, that's all right. Oh yeah, you can open it. You have one open, right? Your book? In the book, this is Linda's book. Even if you go a recipe in the book, candy canes like that, caramel crunch, any recipe that you have, and I've got hundreds, every time you make it, you're going to check it because things change. The recipe doesn't change, but you change, and society changes, and the world changes. We're waxing philosophical now. You may discover down the road, you know, a few customers told me that caramel crunch wasn't sweet enough. You know, a few customers told me it was too sweet. You know, I tasted it today. It didn't taste as sweet as it did. It didn't have enough caramel flavor. It's going to happen. That's why who you entrust to make your ice cream in the store is very important. They can't be a robot. They have to have some sense of where you're going in the store, where the customers are, and the flavors. Because it's going to be up to them a little bit to make sure that the flavors are contemporary to that day, that batch, and so on. I'm not saying change them, but be willing to adapt to them. Does it make sense? No? No? Okay. Whoa, that's good. I wouldn't change anything. Actually, I might add the rest of this Nutella. What the heck, right? Yeah, right? Okay, how do we get it out of here? Yes. Because can you have too much Nutella? No. And it's either add it or leave it for Steve. He'll get it. Linda, come here. Come on. Get this out of there.
I do this with my kids, so I know how to do it.
Yes, I could tell you're a Nutella person. And that's it. That's all we're adding. Except the chocolate chips, right? What's wrong with chocolate chips? Too much chocolate? Very good. Julie, excellent. You hear what she said? Nutella is more milk chocolate. The chips are dark chocolate. How about if we had milk chocolate chips? Got a shot. How we doing? What's this on the outside? To lick?
I usually put boiling water, I shake it up, and
Well, it's one thing you're not getting here. We're working under very, very tough conditions. Okay, we're good. You don't have to be able to see through the jar.
when the wait.
You don't look like this.
Okay, you wanna?
No, you want to lick the bowl?
No, it's okay.
All right, so we added a little more Nutella. So sue me. It's a new flavor. What are you eating? Chips. Chips. All right, everybody knows what Nutella is, right? Do you know where Nutella comes from?
Nutella land. Australia.
Where? Nutella is Danish. Yeah. It's one of my trivia questions. Where does Nutella come from? And you know what's crazy? As good as Nutella is, it hasn't been copied by Borden or Kraft or anything else, which is amazing because it's so popular. I don't suspect it'll be too long before we have a bogus Nutella, right? By Palmolive or something, or one of those companies.
There's a company called Jason's that tries to recreate it, but it's not the same.
No, but there will be something the same.
Problem is, it's got a bad name.
Nutella, terrible
Nutella
name.
doesn't sound good.
Terrible name.
It needs you to remake the name.
It's a terrible name.
So what do you do? What are you going to do with this flavor? You're going to call it Nutella?
No, I don't know.
What happened to
Actually,
the old Tella?
think of a name for the. You can't call it hazelnut.
No.
That's a bad name.
But I used to go to that bank and see the old Tella. Now they got a new Tella, and I don't like her.
What would be a good name for this ice cream? I'll tell you a secret. I make ice cream in the store with two things: mix and Nutella. And we call it, we don't tell anybody what it is, and the sign up there says chocolate velvet. And next to it, it says chocolate like when we were kids. And that's what it tastes like. It's the greatest chocolate ice cream, and it's actually mix and Nutella. Who had some? Anybody have the chocolate velvet? George had it. He's not here today. You had it, right? Very good. Very good. So, chocolate velvet. Actually, this has a little hazelnut. Yeah, I guess you could still. This will be more hazelnutty than chocolatey because we added the Tyranny. You're going to be an ice cream maker?
Yes,
You're going to be an ice cream taster
yeah.
and a store manager. Get all your friends in there. This little thing is 22 years old. 22. As soon as she ordered the adult flavors at my store, they carded her like that. Okay, any questions about anything? Come on, humor me.
What's the difference in the only difference in homemade versus gelato or what are the rest of them is the air content?
No, the fat content.
The fat.
Gelato is typically about 8% butterfat.
A while ago, he said something about
He's talking
settings
about
on
on
the
your
infinite
setting.
your
override.
setting for the override.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't have that.
I don't
But I
have
mean,
that.
that's a big seller in my area is gonna be, because I can put a sign up there that says homemade ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting it out of a
Here's
bag
Steve,
and
you
I'm
can
putting it
ask
up,
him.
you know.
But homemade has nothing to do with what speed you run your machine at or what butterfat content you use. Homemade is homemade right there in your store. I have a big sign that every batch, what does it say? Every
Homemade, made from scratch.
made from scratch, every batch made from scratch. Homemade ice
So
cream,
how do I
every
get it from what we've been tasting to scoopable ice cream?
It'll be scoopable. Everything we made, put it in the freezer, and as long as as long as your freezers are about 0 to 5, 0 to -5, you'll be fine.
That
Any
freezer, where you get that at? I don't know what that is.
That's
you don't
not
know
what
what that
she,
is?
that's
It's called temperature.
I'm gonna come across
The-
the table.
I know you are. I get that a lot. The freezers are usually regulatable. Is that a word?
I like it.
Yeah.
Regulatable by a little dial inside. So you, and they usually have a little printout up here. This one is broke,
Yeah, it is. Long time ago.
but it'll say
It's at -10.
It'll say you don't even need that. Put it in the freezer. The next day, if it's too hard, raise the freezer. Too low, lower the freezer. Too
But
soft, lower.
typically you have one that's set at 0 and one that's set at 16, you said a while ago?
No, that's for ices.
Oh, for ice.
That's for Italian ices. You needed a
Okay.
15, 17, right? 15,
Right,
17?
15.
But
16.
ice cream, my freezers run from 0 to -9. Not because I set them at that, just what they are out of the box.
You got a homemade setting, a premium setting, is that just a matter of how I what would be the difference on this map?
Homemade versus premium versus gelato versus any of the others is all the air content.
Right, I understand.
The slower I spin it, it gets heavier. If you sit down and eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs tonight, you're going to feel awful because it's just so heavy. Also, a 4-ounce scoop of Haagen-Dazs is going to look about that small. Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry did very poorly in retail stores because a 4-ounce portion is so heavy, so dense, that it's small. A 4-ounce portion of homemade is falling off the cone because.
That's a small amount of air.
But nobody eats air. Nobody walked out of an ice cream parlor and said, that's the best damn air content I ever ate. They say, oh, that flavor was great. The mint was really minty. Nobody walks out and says, oh, gee, best butterfat content I ever had. They're eating the package. You don't say, boy, that steak really tasted better than any other because it was a grass-fed cow versus grain-fed. You don't make that distinction. You just say, wow, I go to such and such a place and I get a great steak. So there's air content, there's fat content, but the most important of all, the three of them, the third one's flavor. Flavor is the only one that counts. Baskin-Robbins, who we put in business, and they still use our machines for laboratories, I think is a pretty, technically, on paper, it would be a junky ice cream. But they put so much flavor in it that there is no question then when you eat the raspberry that you know it's raspberry ice cream. We're
Well,
saying
it's raspberry flavored ice cream.
it tastes like raspberry. The worst thing I can do in making ice cream is hand you a pale pink product and you say, oh, that's delicious. What is it? And if you can't tell it's raspberry as opposed to strawberry, I've failed as an ice cream maker. It's all about the flavor. Everything else is secondary and depending on your market.
I think you go over the video, but if I make ice cream at home right now, my little bitty ice cream maker, you put it in my freezer. It don't freeze to a scoopable.
No, because your freezer can't, the little home unit can't get the ice cream cold enough in the first place, and then your freezer at home isn't cold enough to maintain it. And also, it took you 40 minutes to an hour to make as opposed to 8 minutes, so the crystalline structure is very big, and so it's a grainy ice cream.
Crystals in there.
Yeah, it's the machinery. It's the one time where the machinery makes the difference. Come on up. Last call for ice cream.
Last call for ice cream. Whoops. Vicky.
Oh, man.
In one bowl or two bowls? Hey, 2 bowls.
Everybody takes small portions because the rest of it's going to me. This is good.
Steve,
Yes.
come here a sec. Is this the nature of Nutella? The
Yes.
fact? Okay.
Yeah, that's the Nutella.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because you know your vanilla doesn't do that.
Right.
I'm sorry I didn't get to answer your question. What was the question?
She's got a ton of them.
Asked, yeah. There's a place.
There you
in
go.
Tu- There, that's okay. I'll get it in a minute. There's a place in Tucson. It's just a regular shop, a bakery. They sell 6-inch pies that go out the door like crazy because we have a lot of couples.
You got
Do you
it.
think a smaller size ice cream pie would sell like that?
Yes.
Not,
Yeah.
I mean, the regular ones
Any-
probably do, but I mean a smaller,
Yes.
like for 2 people.
Any size pie will sell. The small size is great for, like you say, the couples. Because what happens is you've got this pie and you serve it to
Let's say
let's say you got a full size and you have a dinner party and you serve it to people. And speaking as a man's standpoint, at 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to cut myself about a little half-inch of pie. And then tomorrow for breakfast, I'm going to cut myself another little half inch. That pie is going to last a long time. And I'm just eating a little bit at a time. And if anybody asks me, no, I didn't have any pie. Now, if you had a small one, which is a great idea, if you had a small one like that for a couple's size, it's going to feed them. And without the guilt, they're going to say, oh, it's just a little pie. And besides, we split it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. A lot. More than just the regular cost of the ice cream.
So instead of $5 like a bowl or a cone, maybe
When did you get some?
25?
Yeah.
I mean,
Again,
you just have to look at the price and see.
Again, it depends on the market.
Well,
If it, I mean, you can have, Jeff is right next to a very wealthy retirement community. He'll pay anything. A lot of retirement communities, they're such fixed income that if you get up to $7, all of a sudden it clicks in, hey, I can buy 2 half-gallons of Publix ice cream for the cost of that. I'm going to buy quantity, not quality.
right.
The only mistake that I am aware of in 44 years of setting up ice cream parlors was not going up to visit one store and the guy said, I'm going to be in this community and there's a lot of elderly people and they're looking forward to it. What I didn't realize was they were all on fixed income. It was like St. Pete, Florida. They were so on fixed income that they were not going to buy a $7 ice cream cone. It was a great product, wrong market. Yeah, you got it. You know, people say, how much should I charge? Well, look around and see what everybody else charges and then add more. Because you're homemade, you're better.
Yeah.
How are you going to prove it's better if you don't charge more? But not overly. You can always raise prices, but you can't really bring them down. So start it at a fair price and then see how it goes.
I have a pretty good idea where it is in the market I've been looking at, but that kind of goes to what I was going to talk to you about for a few minutes after, just very specific questions that pertain just to what I'm doing.
Okay,
I appreciate your input on it.
my pleasure.
Scoop it. If you leave it out here too soft, it's going to melt all over the place.
It's going to melt while you're talking if you want.
Well, you don't have any problem with that.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, don't forget, it's not straight Nutella. It's hazelnut. Now, by the way, you'll never get fat eating this. You can feel the weight you're putting on when you eat this, right? Whoa, I'm getting fatter by the spoonful.
Jeff, how much different does it taste without that hazelnut, without that liquid?
I don't know. Oh, when I make it at this, oh, it's totally different. Tastes like chocolate ice cream.
Here's that place called Handles.
Well, that's all the ice creams we're going to make. How about some, I'll give you a tour of the factory. We have 2 buildings. We have here and across the street. We'll tour this one. So if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask them. Nothing, huh? I know if we start out the door. Oh, by the way, Steve, let me ask you this. So what do you got? Last chance.
Jeff, was this, what setting was this on? Premium?
234.
Full homemade.
Homemade.
Yeah. Now, one thing about, don't get over, yes,
Right.
my machines are the
Right.
only ones where you can adjust the air content, so I give you any product you want. But don't go overboard on thinking about air. People don't eat air. And when your employees go to scoop the ice cream, there are whole videos out that show you the proper way to scoop ice cream is to take the spoon and go in a semicircular motion around the tub, rolling the ice cream into the scoop to preserve what air is there. You've done all your finances, all your bases on whatever overrun this is. You know how much it costs you. But you go home tonight, pick up a spoon, pick up a pencil, a pen, anything. And for 5 minutes, I want you to just go like this. You will curse the day you heard my name because your wrist will hurt so bad for doing that. You'll have carpal tunnel syndrome and everything else they can call it. The way people scoop ice cream, the second you walk out the door, your employees go, them. You're going to scoop from the north to the south because your strength is all right here. So you're going to scoop like this, where you're using these muscles. And by doing that, you're taking 100% overrun and compacting it down to about 75 or 80. You priced it at 100. It's not. It's about 80. You're not going to get the maximum number of scoops. You're going to get something less. So I'd be inclined to run a little bit higher air content, knowing that the employees are going to knock it out. And don't ever get in a fight with a ice cream scooper. They got a right hook that'll kill you. But that's what it is you're going like this and you're building up this muscle incredibly. But don't get overly engrossed. I'll tell you what, I mentioned it to someone else. Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry failed as retail ice cream stores. They're just, I don't think there's no Haagen-Dazs. I think the Ben & Jerry are almost gone too. Because a 4-ounce portion of theirs is 40% overrun. And 40% overrun, 4 ounces, looks smaller than a golf ball. And so you pay $6 for this golf ball of ice cream and you go, whoa, I got cheated. Well, if we gave you a huge portion, maybe 10 ounces of it, it's so dense, you'd throw it out. There were literally ice cream cones unfinished out in front of Haagen-Dazs stores. And boy, is that bad for business. Gee, that Haagen-Dazs must not be good. They know their market. Their market is pints. You'll never see a quart of Haagen-Dazs or a quart of Ben & Jerry, or you won't see a quart of any high-priced ice cream because it would be too high. If you're getting $7 for a pint and now you're going to charge $14 or $13.95 for a quart, now people start saying, I could buy 4 half gallons of Breyers for that price and feed the kids. So it does very well in pints, and I love the pint takeout business is so great. But the air content, don't overthink it. It's all about flavor.
Just remember, in a pint takeout business, you then have to get into the category of ingredient labeling.
Yeah.
Precise health department ingredient labeling.
But that, Jeff, has turned out to be, even though it's a pain in the neck, it's not as hard as it was. We found a program this morning because we're writing a cookbook for the CB100, and we found a whole program that has everything in it that it's already been figured out, the calories and everything else. So we're coming up with labels like nothing. So it's gotten a lot easier. Anybody else?
This is ready.
Yeah, more Nutella. We'll have to move all that for you. Yeah. Yes.
So if you're
You look just like the last guy.
if you're hand packing a pint of ice cream before it leaves the store, it has to have a label on it?
No, it doesn't. But don't hand pack because it's just too wasteful of labor. It was fine back in the 60s when you were paying $1.85 an hour for labor, but now someone for $15 is there packing ice cream, and besides, they're compacting it so bad. I grew up, I was a fat little ugly kid, and I thought the girl at the ice cream parlor, now just old. I thought the girl at the ice cream parlor liked me because she was always packing it in so tough she couldn't even get the top closed. That container at Baskin-Robbins is called a Chinese pint. It is not a full pint unless it's completely overflowing and barely closed. And boy, they are tough on the law on that one. You can have an inspector come in and order up a pint of ice cream and weigh it, and if that weight is light, you'd think you've broken, every federal law on earth.
Steve, what's the difference between a customer walking in and saying, I'll have, let's say your 16-ounce cup, my medium. Mm-hmm. Let's say they say my regular. I'll have a 16-ounce, which is a pint, to go. What's the difference between that and selling a pint with a label on it?
I don't think you have to label if you're selling it to go. It's only when you're selling it to someone else. If you sell it to the
so if I have a
shop,
pint display freezer, pints and quarts?
You don't need labeling. The reason people do it is we've gotten so used to labels, we don't even know what we're reading, but we read it anyway. And so it's become a marketing tool to say, this has got a gazillion calories in it, but you're going to love it.
So you don't need any ingredient distinctions if you're selling from your store to a person?
Not unless unless you sell it to the pizza parlor, right, and he resells it. Now you're wholesale.
Okay.
And even that gets dubious because
it gets dubious?
Well, I wouldn't want to. I don't want to test it, but if you come to my store and you order up 50 gallons of ice cream and take it home to your pizza parlor or Italian Ice, from my standpoint, from my legal standpoint, that's a retail sale. Paula walked in and she bought a cup of lemon ice. You walk in and you bought 50 gallons of lemon ice. You both put it into your car. You both drove off. I didn't deliver it. That's retail.
Can't be.
It's retail.
I always thought the distinction was when you package something for resale. Got your name on it, whatever.
Well, in this case, from your standpoint, if you're running a push cart, it's still retail.
So I can tell them when they come knock on my door, Steve said it was okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm out.
I'll send you a file at San Quentin. Anybody else? No? Okay. If you'd like, I'll give you a quick tour of the factory. Thank you.